Hi everyone, please subscribe to my channel. Blood Immortal Venerable. See playlist for other chapters and novels. I do not translate the novels. Credits goes to original translator and author of the novel. I only make it as an audiobook so it would be easier to just listen while doing other things. Credits goes to the author of the novel. I convert stories to audiobook for mental health, for multitasking purpose, for accessibility and time saving. Listening to audiobook is also beneficial for people who have disability. It improves our listening skills and improve our English comprehension, vocabulary and other things. So, thank you for listening. Thank you and thank you very much for your support. Chapter 1741, Master Evil. The martial arts of the Divine Land had existed for a long time and had gone through countless eras of development. However, it was now stuck in a bottleneck. Generally speaking, the level or achievement a divine citizen could reach was already defined after they were born. Moreover, their social strata was fixed and thus, rarely changed. Therefore, the chances of a small village like the Misty Mountain Village to have some powerful warriors were close to none. The leader of the Sun Moon Village was naturally infuriated, but he had sharp eyes. He knew that Zen wasn't an ordinary person and of course, secretly raised his vigilance. That was why he first asked Zen where he learned martial arts from in order to find out more about his background. "My master," Zen flatly said and glanced at him. Zen glanced at this person and said indifferently, "You don't have the right to know about this." The subordinates of the Sun Moon Village's leader began to curse Zen among themselves once again when they heard his words. Just as they began to speak, Zen threw the pebbles that were concealed in his fingers at lightning speed. Several swooshing sounds filled the air as the jaws of the martial artists who cursed Zen had gotten shattered by the pebbles. They fell to the ground and rolled around in pain. Meanwhile, the leader of the Sun Moon Village just stood there motionlessly. Even if Zen hadn't moved yet, he knew that he was no match for this person. Since Zen had refused to reveal where he had learned martial arts, he relented and said, "To be honest, my friend, our Sun Moon Village is doing favors for someone else. That person is definitely not someone you can afford to offend. Doing so for the sake of the Misty Mountain Village is surely not a wise choice." When he was finished speaking, Zen paused in contemplation. It could be said that this leader of the Sun Moon Village was intelligent to some level. He wasn't like some extremely conceited and foolish people who looked for trouble with Zen and wanted to kill him first. Since the leader said that they were doing things for someone else and that person was someone he couldn't afford to offend, then that person must be a powerful true god. There was still a huge difference between a world lord and a true god. However, to be able to bridge that gap would certainly feel like reaching the heaven from the earth. But, Zen's current strength did not allow him to have even the slightest chance of winning against a low-rank true god. Moreover, those black threads currently bound his cinnabar field, so it was even more impossible for him to compete against a true god. The leader of the Sun Moon Village mentally snickered when he noticed the change in Zen's expression. This person hesitated. "I'll push a little more so he would back off," he thought. It was true that the leader of the Sun Moon Village worked for someone else, and that person was indeed powerful. At the very least, this person had once been one of the hegemons of the vast sky region. The 36 islands and the 72 villages in the north of the vast sky region had once belonged to this person. In addition, among his followers, there were even 7 low-rank true gods. Unfortunately, this person had suddenly disappeared a long time ago. There were no news of him in the last tens of divine eras. The 36 islands and 72 villages that he had previously managed had all collapsed and quickly disintegrated. Currently, there were only 3 villages left, and the Sun Moon Village was one of them. However, the Sun Moon Village was now in a terrible state of decline. Their glory and legends were now a thing of the past, and even a small village like the Misty Mountain Village wasn't afraid of them anymore. If it had been back then, not even the divine cities of vast sky region dared to look down on the 72 villages and 36 islands, let alone a remote mountain village. Then again, the leader of the Sun Moon Village had recently seen an enormous opportunity. That powerful person had come back. Once that person had fully returned, he would definitely regain his former glory. Such would be the leader of the Sun Moon Village's golden chance. Of course, if it wasn't for the fact that the Sun Moon Village was one of the 72 villages, he wouldn't be qualified or it would be impossible to speak to that person. Another reason was that this powerful person felt nostalgic, so he gave the leader of the Sun Moon Village such an opportunity. Furthermore, not even his title of approving godly warrior meant anything, as it was just a sugar-coated term for world lord. Many divine citizens had reached the level of world lords since the ancient times, but the number of martial artists who could cultivate the godly ways was extremely small. If that powerful person truly valued him, then it wouldn't be hard for him to cultivate a godly way in the future. The leader of the Sun Moon village thought that even if Zen was indeed extraordinary and most likely came from a powerful background, or even a wealthy floating island, he was still no match for that person. At the same time, the leader of the Sun Moon village didn't want that powerful person to look down on himself. Then again, how would he gain that person's favor in the future if he couldn't complete such a small mission? Besides, we are just taking back our territory, the leader of the Sun Moon village added. The villagers of the Misty Mountain village who had been hiding in their houses couldn't hold themselves any longer when they heard those words. They had decided to just hide and watch the situation from a distance, but they couldn't do that anymore after all those insults. After all, they were the aboriginals of the Misty Mountain village. Our Misty Mountain village is your territory. Nonsense. Our Misty Mountain villagers have been here for generations. You are too shameless to have said that. To their surprise, the leader of the Sun Moon village just smiled at their words and said, "For generations. How many years do you refer to? As far as I know, it has only been less than a divine era since your people moved here. And this place was indeed our territory 7 divine eras ago, or more exactly, it should be that person's territory." While a divine citizen's lifespan certainly wasn't short, a single divine era was considered already very long, not to mention 7 divine eras. 7 divine eras? Why didn't you say 100? This kind of thing has no way to be verified. It's just your side of the story. I can also say that 100 divine eras ago, our Misty Mountain village's ancestors also built a village here. Ha ha. The villagers of Misty Mountain village shot back. Despite all the mocking retorts and jeers, the leader of the Sun Moon village just sneered at them. It's impossible for you all to not have heard of the legend of the 36 islands and 72 villages. I'm telling you, that person is already back. Whether you believe it or not is up to you, he warned. Back when that powerful person first appeared in the Sun Moon village, the village leader himself did not believe it as well. He thought that he was someone who only existed in ancient legends. But even if the legend might be fake, this person's power couldn't be faked at all. That person was as strong as a mid-rank true god. Silence immediately enveloped the Misty Mountain village at the leader of the Sun Moon village's words. However, they whispered among themselves, and their murmurs did not escape Zen's ears. About the 36 islands and 72 villages, I remember that there is indeed such a legend in the vast sky region. Our Misty Mountain village belongs to one of these regions. HMPH, that is just a story someone has made up. A few divine eras ago. Will anyone even believe the things that have been passed down from such a long time ago? Yes, that person is the infamous Master Evil. It's just that according to the legends, he had died a long time ago, and those villages and islands have been destroyed as well. Quote. The whispers were barely audible, but Zen still heard them all. He couldn't help but raise his eyebrows, his lips twitched. A glimmer of confidence flashed in his eyes when he heard the words, Master Evil. He stared at the leader of the Sun Moon village and asked, "The person you're talking about, is he really Master Evil?" As for Master Evil's return, the leader of the Sun Moon village hadn't found the right time to announce it to the public. At the very least, he did not plan to reveal it until he had helped Master Evil obtain the thing that he had buried under Misty Mountain village. Now that some people had already guessed who the person was, the leader of the Sun Moon village chuckled as he assumed that Zen was frightened. He thought that it would be best if Zen would be wary of the overwhelming odds against him and just back off. He then continued, "Master Evil is now a mid-rank true god. If he personally comes here, you won't have any chance to resist and you will definitely die. Those villagers will also suffer from an unimaginable disaster. You should convince them to leave with you as quickly as you can." Chapter 1742, Muddy Moon Cave. The divine citizens of Misty Mountain Village didn't believe that Master Evil had returned. Such a legend had been spread over a long time, after all. Most of the characters in these legends were already ancient figures, their return wasn't something people would easily accept. But Zen had no doubt about it because it was he who personally released Master Evil. After being released, Master Evil and Wayne had rushed into Swirl Forest before the fairy palace was besieged by a group of vicious creatures from the Divine Land. At this point, Zen wasn't sure whether or not these two had died under the hands of those ferocious beasts. He had also been worried that even with the two's strength to defy the heavens, they'd still have difficulty surviving against the vicious beasts. Now, it seemed that Zen's worries were unnecessary. Master Evil had been imprisoned for so long that as soon as he was released, he wanted to restore his former glory. It was merely a coincidence that Master Evil's den was actually the vast sky region. If you don't believe me, I won't be the one coming here again. Next time, it will be Master Evil himself, said the chief of the Sun Moon village. A strong mid-rank true god was also a powerful figure in the divine land. With such a backer, his Sun Moon village's position could be greatly enhanced in the future. It pleased the chief, believing that Zen would compromise and no one was willing to seek death before a true god. I believe you, Zen said faintly. Hearing Zen's words, the Sun Moon village's chief and his subordinates immediately heaved a sigh of relief, knowing that they didn't have to fight Zen, a proven godly warrior. If they could make him retreat on his own in the face of such difficulties, they'd achieve ideal results. Since that's the case, you can persuade the villagers of Misty Mountain Village to leave obediently or you can leave on your own. Let us deal with the villagers, the chief said with a smile. The members of the Misty Mountain Village weren't expecting Zen to truly believe the chief's words, they were stunned. Thad, you can't just accept what they say. They mean only to scare us. The Sun Moon Village is a mere dilapidated village that has survived for tens of thousands of years. How could they possibly find a true god to help them? Quote. Zen ignored their words and continued speaking to the Sun Moon Village's chief. I believe that Master Evil has returned, but I will not leave. If you want me to go, you can ask Master Evil to come here personally. Everyone was thinking that Zen had compromised, hence the matter would be resolved easily. But hearing his words, all their expressions turned stiff. It was clear, then, that Zen had his own plans. Zen had just entered the divine land, integrating himself was bound to be extremely difficult. If only he could obtain the help of Master Evil, it would be great. Right, if you really can, get that Master Evil to come personally. I want to see where your Sun Moon Village will go to find a true god. If there really is a true god, must your Sun Moon Village kick us out personally? I also want to meet the legendary true god. But the members of Misty Mountain Village misunderstood Zen's intentions. They thought that Zen did not truly believe the words of the Sun Moon Village's chief and was merely taking advantage of the situation. The chief's face turned ashen and his voice became ice cold once again. Do you know the consequences of Master Evil coming here personally? Of course I do, Zen said with a nod. Good. A cold laugh came from the chief as he led his people to turn back and leave. He couldn't persuade Zen to leave and expel the villagers of the Misty Mountain Village, so he had no choice but to have Master Evil come personally and deal with them. Undoubtedly, he would be convicted of failing to complete the mission, but more importantly, he also knew that Zen and the people from the Misty Mountain Village would fall to death in Master Evil's hands. After the Sun Moon Village people left, the villagers in hiding began to come out. Most of them looked victorious. They were happy about chasing away the Sun Moon Village without any bloodshed. So many years have passed. The Sun Moon Village still doesn't have many people. Their strength is average, but their bragging skills are rather impressive. They talk of obtaining a true god. What a joke. You're right, Master Evil is said to be a great figure in the northern part of the vast sky region. Why would such a person appear in a small village? Exactly. In the eyes of the Misty Mountain Village, the Sun Moon Village was not much stronger than them. It was merely a village full of stupidity. They used to be afraid of the Sun Moon Village, but now that they had that, they no longer had much respect for the other. But Zen's next words made the villagers' hearts grow cold. Master Evil has indeed returned. He's back. You're kidding, right? Said a villager with a nervous chuckle. It was difficult to outright believe in Zen's words. It's no joke. Zen shook his head. Master Evil has indeed returned to the vast sky region. Their village leader did not lie because I met Master Evil personally not long ago. The originally noisy atmosphere at the entrance of Misty Mountain Village instantly froze into silence when Zen's words resounded. You're serious? The villagers' expressions turned serious. The people of the Misty Mountain Village had no qualms about facing the Sun Moon Village, but even if they were given 10,000 extra forces, they wouldn't dare offend a true god. It's true, Zen confirmed. But he wanted to find words that could offer them some comfort. Although Master Evil was powerful, he couldn't disobey Zen's orders. But these divine citizens were probably too frightened and agitated to listen. Then, what should we do? Let's just leave. It's said that Master Evil has committed all sorts of crimes. Back then, he had the power to do all evil things. But a powerful warrior defeated him and Master Evil was lost for many years. Is he really going to make a comeback? But the Misty Mountain Village has been left to us by generations of our ancestors. Our ancestors? This person has been around much longer than them. If the legend is true, we have indeed occupied Master Evil's old territory. Zen was speechless. Since the villagers were too agitated, Zen couldn't be bothered to explain any longer. Meanwhile in the Sun Moon Village, the Muddy Moon Cave was originally abandoned for countless years. The entrance had also collapsed a long time ago. But during this period of time, the Sun Moon Village had reopened the Muddy Moon Cave's entrance and cleaned it meticulously. Soon after, it was classified as a forbidden area by the Sun Moon Village. No one was allowed to approach it. The Sun Moon Village's chief kneeled before the cave in respect. Lowering his voice, he said, "Master Evil, it is not that I have failed my mission. I don't know where the Misty Mountain Village got such a strong warrior to help them. Although he's only a proving godly warrior, his strength is indeed extraordinary. I'm very sensitive to soul theurgy, as you may know, and I found that proving godly warrior's soul may surpass the gold fighting soul. His soul may even be a true god soul." After that, the chief didn't dare move an inch. Nonsense. A mere world lord able to cultivate his soul into a gold fighting soul is already too outstanding, but to have the true god soul. I'm afraid that even the wealthy clans of the floating islands cannot do it. Master Evil's voice transmitted from the cave. There weren't many world lords with a gold fighting soul, it was difficult to believe. Chapter 1743, Meet Zen again. After Master Evil left the Swirl Forest, he noticed a large group of vicious beasts. The beasts frantically rushed towards the fairy palace. Although he and Wayne were powerful, if they really were to be surrounded by that group of ferocious beasts, then the odds were against them. Such dangerous beasts would give them a hard time and probably even severe injuries. The strange thing was that the vicious beasts only glanced at the two of them for a brief moment and then ignored them. It seemed like that the beasts considered them unimportant. After the beasts had left, Master Evil and Wayne then quietly left the Swirl Forest. As they finally safely escaped the forest, they both went their separate ways. Master Evil had been imprisoned for many divine eras. For a true god, 7 or 8 divine eras wouldn't have too great of a change. Nothing more than 2 or 3 new holy beings would appear in that period. Additionally, there would only be little changes in the rankings of the floating islands on the time sea. However, for the divine citizens, the change was quite significant. The point of views of a true god and divine citizens were extremely different. When Master Evil returned to the vast sky region, he discovered that the 36 islands and 72 villages that he had founded had long since been destroyed. All of his creations were already in ruins. The vast majority of them had already disappeared as time passed by. He had expected it. However, when he found out that there were 3 villages left among the 72 villages, he felt delighted. After all, those were the inheritance that he had left behind. Additionally, after all those years, there were still many warriors who continuously struggled just to survive. It was true that Master Evil had committed many evil deeds. However, he still treasured old friendships. Even though the talent and strength of the warriors that remained were like jokes in the eyes of Master Evil, he still treated them well. He was even prepared to take out some of the things he had hidden in the vast sky region before he slowly regained his power. However, there were some things about Master Evil that could not come to light. For example, the thing buried under Misty Mountain Village. He had just returned to the vast sky region, and was just about to regain his ground, so he had to do everything with extreme caution. Furthermore, the weakness of the people in the Sun Moon Village was beyond his imagination. Their talents and strengths were pathetic. They had even failed to complete a small task like the expulsion of divine citizens. That was not something that Master Evil had expected. A depressed expression came across his face. Immediately, the leader of the Sun Moon Village had made a report. In order to conceal his incompetence, he naturally exaggerated about Zen's abilities. A soul of a world lord was comparable to that of a true god. What nonsense! In all of his life, Master Evil had only seen one person who had cultivated his soul to such a level. It was that brat Zen he had met in the fairy palace. A displeased expression immediately showed up in Master Evil's face. Zen was the disciple of a holy being while his father was a holy being as well. With a strong foundation and a fantastic master, his cultivation was simply spectacular. In the entire divine land, there weren't many people like him. In such a desolate little mountain village in the north of vast sky region, how could there be such a proving godly warrior? He wouldn't believe it anyway. Everything I said was true. If I have told any lies, Master Evil, you can chop off my head. If you don't believe me, you can go there yourself. Everything will be made clear. The leader of the Sun Moon Village said with a serious expression. His eyes reflected no sense of deceit. You imbecile, are you saying that I have to personally act to drive away some divine citizens? The voice of Master Evil came again from the Muddy Moon Cave. With an angry tone, he reprimanded the leader of the Sun Moon Village. It's all my fault to have failed to accomplish the task. And this small matter indeed doesn't need you to deal with personally. But the problem is a proving godly warrior. His strength is unrivaled by any of our warriors. The leader of the Sun Moon village quickly defended himself. He was afraid of Master Evil's wrath. In fact, the leader's knowledge of Master Evil came from legends as well. After all, it was not that long after he became a proven godly warrior and started to lead the Sun Moon village. With his great talents, it was said that he brought prosperity to the Sun Moon village. Besides, after so many years had passed, the records of Master Evil in the Sun Moon village became very vague. Nonetheless, just from the title Master Evil, he knew that Master Evil was not some kind person. Since the leader of the Sun Moon village had said so, Master Evil could only sneer. He let out a deep sigh and said angrily, "It seems that I still have to go personally." When the leader of the Sun Moon village heard this, he was immediately overjoyed. It seemed that Master Evil would not punish him for his incompetence. Additionally, with Master Evil's strength, he only needed to lift a finger to kill that proving godly warrior. The leader also wanted to witness the miserable demise of the proving godly warrior of the Misty Mountain village. After the divine citizens of the Misty Mountain village confirmed the return of Master Evil, they finally decided to give up on the Misty Mountain village. Life was above everything. When faced with a true god, or more exactly, a mid-rank true god, they had no way to resist. They could only run away helplessly. However, at that time, Zen stepped forward and told them not to leave. With a brave expression on his face, he urged everyone to stay. Zen did not tell them any reason. However, he was very confident that their safety could be guaranteed. Nonetheless, the majority of the people in the Misty Mountain village didn't believe Zen. Perhaps Zen was indeed an extraordinary proving godly warrior, but he was only a world lord. Even his great strength wasn't enough to convince the divine citizens in the Misty Mountain village. The divine citizens firmly believed that his cultivation level was utterly inferior to that of Master Evil. The thousands of divine citizens in Misty Mountain village began to migrate and hide that day. However, there was still a large portion of the divine citizens that decided to stay. That part of the divine citizens was divided into two types. There were those who were reluctant to leave Misty Mountain village no matter what would happen. Their possessions and livelihood were already cemented in the village. Another group was those who were led by Wooly and Thompson. It was the group that had chosen to believe in Zen. On the second day, when the first glimmer of light shone, 90% of the villagers had already left the Misty Mountain village. The 10% that remained readied themselves for another onslaught. Their lives were already in Zen's hands. Zen sat formidably at the entrance of the Misty Mountain village. He continuously cleared the black threads on his cinnabar field as he waited for Master Evil. He was afraid that Master Evil would not show himself and send another group of weak warriors to attack the village again. As for the divine citizens of the Misty Mountain village that stayed with Zen, they were even more nervous. Despair crept in each of their hearts. If Zen couldn't deal with Master Evil, they would die with him. Not long after, a group of warriors from the Sun Moon village came. Master Evil was carried in a palanquin that followed behind leisurely. After they had climbed over a hill, Master Evil saw the Misty Mountain village in front of him. "It's right in front of us, Master Evil," the leader of the Sun Moon village reminded Master Evil. The proving godly warrior should still be guarding the entrance to Misty Mountain village. His arrogance would be his downfall. With your strength, it would only take a blink of an eye to kill him. Master Evil lazily sat on the palanquin with an indifferent look. Even if what the leader of the Sun Moon village said was true, the other party was still just a world lord. Such a low-level warrior was not qualified to be his opponent. After they crossed the hill, Master Evil and his group finally arrived at the Misty Mountain village. With a callous expression, Master Evil lazily lay on the palanquin. As he finally stopped, he looked at the direction which the Sun Moon village's leader pointed. His eyes suddenly widened as he gazed at the entrance of the village. The moment he caught the person at the entrance of the village, Master Evil frantically stood up and revealed a look like he had seen a ghost. Zen. Disbelief painted Master Evil's face. He then used his hand to wipe his eyes, as if to get a better look. Master Evil. After he saw Master Evil's expression, the leader of the Sun Moon village was also slightly surprised. Could it be that the proving godly warrior at the entrance of the Misty Mountain village was indeed someone of great background? Master Evil did not answer. He observed for a while, and after he confirmed that the warrior was indeed Zen, he felt conflicted at the moment. His confusion was reflected in his expression. Previously, when he left the fairy palace, Master Evil hoped that he would never encounter Zen again for the rest of his life. After all, the Divine Land was a huge place, so the chances of another encounter with him were slim. But he didn't expect that he would meet Zen again so soon. He was really unlucky. All he could do was bite his lips in disappointment. He then jumped down from the palanquin and turned around. Without a single word, he left the Misty Mountain village. The leader of the Sun Moon village was baffled by the scene. With widened eyes, the leader could only gawk silently. However, after Master Evil had taken more than a few steps, he heard Zen call out to him, "Master Evil, didn't you recognize me?" Chapter 1744, The Sealing Machine. Master Evil had never thought that he would meet Zen in the Misty Mountain village. A displeased expression came across Master Evil's face. The Swirl Forest was not far from their location, but it was still 3 regions away. Master Evil thought that he probably had some bad karma to coincidentally run into Zen in this small mountain village in the northern part of the vast sky region. He could not tell how he felt, and could only accept that he and Zen were fated to meet. Other than Bromley and a few other holy beings, Zen was probably the last person Master Evil wanted to see. To leave the dungeon, Master Evil had accepted an extremely unfair inner demon oath to Zen that he would do precisely as Zen asked. If he disobeyed Zen, he would be attacked by the oath. A heavy gulp was made by Master Evil as he remembered the oath. After he had managed to leave the dungeon, Master Evil naturally wished to achieve more in the godly way. With an insatiable thirst for power, he wanted to cultivate more to improve his strength. He was already at the peak of the mid-rank true god, which meant that as long as he took one more step, he would be able to become a top-rank true god. At that time, his strength and position would be on a whole new level. Even if the holy beings wanted to make a move against him, they would be wary of him. With a strong desire to keep his life, Master Evil definitely wouldn't violate his inner demon oath. As soon as he heard what Zen said from behind, Master Evil's body instantly stiffened. He then slowly turned his head, and chuckled, "I did, of course I recognized you." "Good," Zen uttered and nodded his head. With an indifferent face, Zen casually said, "Since you still remember me, you can stay here today. I have something that I need your help with." The leader of the Sun Moon village and his subordinates, who stood beside Master Evil, were instantly dumbfounded. A curious expression painted their faces as they witnessed how obedient Master Evil's reaction was. Master Evil had a high reputation in their hearts. Who was the proving godly warrior from the Misty Mountain village? How dare he speak to Master Evil in such a manner? To their surprise, Master Evil did not get angry nor annoyed. Instead, he gave a pleasant laugh, which made it even harder for them to think straight. He was just belittled by the proving godly warrior. How could he be so calm? "It's okay if you need my help, but I've only just returned to the vast sky region. There is a thing that I want to take away, and it just so happened to be buried under the Misty Mountain village. Can you ask these villagers to retreat first?" Master Evil stated with a calm tone. His gentle face didn't reflect his true emotions. In his eyes, the divine citizens were as humble as ants. However, since Zen was here, he had to get his permission first. When the villagers of the Misty Mountain village saw that Master Evil had personally come, they were naturally frightened. Cold sweat trickled down their spines as they witnessed his arrival. To them, Master Evil was a legendary evil god. In the vast sky region, if a child behaved badly, some adults would use his existence to scare the child. They would often say, "If you don't behave well, Master Evil would come and capture you." A simple sentence like that would be enough to silence a baby in tears. How could the villagers still be alive even after a legendary evil god had already arrived in their village? Fortunately, most of the divine citizens of the Misty Mountain village had already moved away. At the same time, the ones that fled let out a sigh of relief in their hiding place. Even though they had to leave their home, they were still able to survive. Nonetheless, they also feared for the safety of those who remained. However, just as Zen had promised, the divine citizens that remained were still unharmed. They hadn't expected that Master Evil would be so polite to Zen. In fact, Master Evil did not appear evil at all. After they had witnessed such a peaceful scene, the villagers were even more surprised and began to speculate about where Zen came from. Since Master Evil had made such a request, Zen discussed it with the divine citizens that still remained in the village. Master Evil's intention was not to chase away those divine citizens of the Misty Mountain village. All he wanted was to take away the thing buried there. As such, the divine citizens didn't have to be so against him. Thus, the divine citizens that still remained finally left the Misty Mountain village. After some time, they met and joined the majority of the divine citizens who chose to hide. Master Evil ordered the leader of the Sun Moon village to lead a group of warriors to guard outside. It was only until then that he and Zen entered the village. This mountain was once called Black Wind Ridge, one of my old nests. Back then, the Black Wind Ridge was renowned throughout the entire vast sky region. However, it has now become a place no one knows about, Master Evil sighed while he shook his head. He had established 72 villages in the past. However, a disappointed look appeared in his face because only 3 of them were left. Furthermore, after so many years, everything had changed. Back here, whenever he reminisced, he felt bad. Nonetheless, there was no one to talk to. Zen followed silently behind Master Evil. As he heard Master Evil's story, a smile shone across Zen's face. A true god's lifespan is limitless. As such, you would only lose a little time, Master Evil. To a true god like you, time is probably the most worthless thing, right? As long as you spend some time, everything can be reconstructed. It's easy for you to make a comeback. He comforted Master Evil with a gentle and heartfelt tone. As soon as Zen finished his remark, Master Evil's body paused for a moment. He turned his head and looked deeply at Zen. With a low yet sorrowful voice, he said, "You're right, but the environment of the divine land is constantly changing. I wonder if there is an opportunity like that." Master Evil just became a mid-rank true god back then. Additionally, it had been extremely difficult for him to dominate the vast sky region. However, the 2 major powers of the vast sky region were in conflict back then. Both of the 2 mighty groups only focused on the war. They had no time to pay attention to the northern parts of the vast sky region. As such, Master Evil's influence continued to grow without much trouble. Such an opportunity would be hard to find in their current situation. Unexpectedly, Zen gave a faint smile. A hint of expectation shone across his eyes as he uttered confidently, "Actually, there seems to be a greater chance to achieve such a thing now. Can you not see it? A greater chance? What do you mean?" Master Evil was startled. With curious eyes, he stared at Zen for a while. A light flashed through his eyes and he suddenly began to breathe faster. After their recent encounters, he was already aware that Zen was Bromley's disciple as well as Mike's son. Although the vast sky region was just a small region within the divine land, Master Evil had heard about certain rumors. He was aware of the affairs on the floating islands. Additionally, he also knew about the disputes between those holy beings. Master Evil was cautious about Zen's presence in the divine land. Zen must have had some grand plans since he even took the effort to step in this place. With the support of 2 holy beings, Master Evil believed that Zen could rise to prominence as soon as possible. If he could follow Zen, it would indeed be a great opportunity for Master Evil. No, no, no. Master Evil immediately denied the idea as he frantically shook his head like a rattle drum. Zen was indeed the inheritor of the 2 holy beings. However, Bromley had already disappeared for many divine eras. Whether he was alive or dead could be also a question. Additionally, Mike was already on the verge of death. To make matters worse, Zen's opponents were Murphy and the Hall of Holy Beings. The opportunity was not small, but the risk was just too great. Estelle was qualified to be involved. However he, Master Evil, could only become a pile of cannon fodder if he were to participate. With his current strength, he would be no match to those powerful creatures. As he saw Master Evil's reluctant reaction, Zen lightly said, "A true god's lifespan is indeed limitless, but are you really willing to go through such a long time in mediocrity?" Master Evil laughed loudly. With a shameless voice, he replied, "That's better than death." Master Evil knew that Zen had unlimited potential. It would be possible for him to become a top-rank true god. The achievement of such a goal was easily within his grasp. With his abilities, Zen could even be a consummate true god in the future. However, not everyone dared to fight against those holy beings. A battle with such powerful creatures could only be an unpleasant nightmare. Since Master Evil was reluctant to join him, Zen did not force the matter anymore. All Zen needed Master Evil to do was to help him settle down in the divine land. After they had entered the center of the Misty Mountain village, Master Evil became restless. He stretched out his hand and slapped the ground left and right. As he searched for a certain object, his head almost touched the ground. Some time had passed for their search. Finally, Master Evil confirmed a spot. Then, he walked a few steps to the side and suddenly slapped the ground with his hand. Immediately, a massive divine texture appeared in his hand. An intense expression was revealed in Master Evil's face as he saw the divine texture. Without any delay, the divine texture turned into a giant arrow, and then the arrow slowly crawled on the ground. Click, click. At that moment, a muffled sound came from underneath the Misty Mountain village. Metals and heavy stones were heard to collide with one another. It seemed that a huge mechanism had been opened deep underground. An expression of euphoria appeared on Master Evil's face. Expectant eyes and a cheerful smile revealed his happiness about the discovery. The sealing machine that he set before was still effective. It only meant that in the years that he had been gone, no one had been able to get their hands on the thing that he had hidden underneath. However, when he opened the sealing machine, a powerful aura suddenly erupted from one of the buildings in the Misty Mountain village. Both Zen and Master Evil immediately raised their guards. At the same time, a burst of arrogant laughter resounded. "Ha ha, Master Evil, you're finally back. I've been waiting for you for 7 divine eras." As soon as Master Evil heard the voice, his face immediately changed. The previous joyful expression he displayed had suddenly disappeared. Zen's eyebrows creased with curiosity. Chapter 1745, Falling. The sealing machine was set up by Master Evil and it was quite ingenious, to say the least. Once the sealing machine itself was sealed, it only gave one chance to be opened. If someone attempted to open it using the wrong order, the entire sealing machine would self-destruct, including everything inside it. At the time, Master Evil had sealed an extremely important treasure, one that he had obtained himself and buried it beneath the Black Wind Ridge. Even if someone was determined enough to try stealing it from its spot, they wouldn't obtain anything anyway. After the 7 divine eras had passed, the first thing Master Evil did after he returned was retrieve his treasure. Clearly, through his actions, one could tell that this treasure was extremely important to him. What Master Evil hadn't expected though, was that someone would be waiting for him in the vast sky region. Even more so, that same person had waited for a full 7 divine eras. And yet, Zen had been staying in Misty Mountain Village the entire time. Never had he noticed the presence, let alone the existence of such a character. To have the capacity of hiding within Misty Mountain Village and completely avoiding Zen's sharp spiritual sense could only mean that this person was strong. Perhaps even stronger than Master Evil. And what was to say of his courage, showing up here at such a time? With a squeak, a house door amidst the Misty Mountain Village creaked slowly open. A figure walked out. He was thin and handsome and carried a feather fan in his hand. As he walked, he spoke and smiled arrogantly. "To be honest, I never actually expected you to come back, you evil old dog. This sealing machine is so ingenious, I've studied it myself for so many years. I even asked someone to seal it with the time in godly way so that I could take out its content after triggering it. Unfortunately, I just didn't dare take the risk, for fear of destroying the sealing machine. My only option was to sit and wait, possibly forever. And now, the day has finally come." Master Evil's face was covered in a coldness. He stared at the person with his bean-sized eyes as words came out of his mouth. "Yorick Yin. Humph, you really are patient." Seeing Master Evil's expression, the smile on Yorick's face quickly began to spread. His eyes twinkled and he said, "Of course. For something of such importance, trust me, I could have afforded to waste even more time. What's a mere 7 divine eras? Make me wait for 70. Then we'll talk patience." As Yorick spoke, his eyes indifferently glanced behind Master Evil on several occasions. "But I'm curious, this little fellow named Thad standing behind you, where does he come from?" he asked. "Among proving godly warriors, Thad can be considered absolutely outstanding. Could it be that he came from a wealthy clan on a floating island?" Yorick continued. Zen frowned, but said nothing in return. Yorick knew his name was Thad, thus he must have been lurking here for at least a few days, not to say secretly watching and observing him. This made Zen suddenly feel quite uncomfortable. In Yorick's mind, only the wealthy clans of the floating islands could nurture such a proving godly warrior. And judging by Zen's background, he was indeed a member of a wealthy clan on a floating island. After all, the Luo clan had once owned a floating island in the Time Sea, and the Luo clan's floating island was actually ranked quite high. Unfortunately, because Mike declined, the floating island was taken over by other clans, and 1,000 disciples on it were driven away. Master Evil was in no mood to have to explain this to Yorick. He had already activated the sealing machine, and his mind was quickly spinning. His cultivation level was the same as Yorick's, but Master Evil had been locked in a prison for many, many years. Although his cultivation level might not have decreased, chances were, his strength had. Although Yorick was also a mid-rank true god, he had definitely made significant progress in the past few years. In such a battle situation, the difference in strength between the two of them would probably be quite large. "So you've got patience, that we know, but I'm wondering. Do you even have the ability to get the treasure?" Master Evil gathered his inner power, and then he jumped back abruptly. Black smoke curled up around him and his entire body appeared to be transforming into an illusory figure. Heinously evil way. The black smoke lingered for a moment before Master Evil's snow-white hair suddenly turned black. The wrinkles on his face were so deep that they seemed to have been carved out by a knife, and 2 illusory devil claws appeared on his hands. Master Evil charged towards Yorick at an extremely high speed. So fast that he could barely be seen. Master Evil wasn't very tall, in fact, he was nearly a whole head shorter than Zen. Because of his old age, he was also quite small and skinny. Ultimately though, he was still a true god. Once he made his move, it would be a fatal one. The pair of devil claws quickly condensed and charged toward Yorick. Of course, this attack was extraordinarily sharp. From Zen's point of view, even though Master Evil's grab seemed rather ordinary, the power it contained still came as a shock. At the very least, due to Zen's current strength, he wouldn't be able to withstand such a move. Yorick seemed to be quite familiar with Master Evil's movements. More importantly, he knew how powerful Master Evil's move truly was and therefore, he didn't choose to face the attack head-on. As he retreated instead, he gently waved the feather fan in his hand, and his entire body suddenly became extremely nimble. He left an afterimage behind him as he moved and dodged Master Evil's attack. When these two true gods began to fight, Zen didn't even care about watching the show. If he wasn't careful, he could get hurt. Instead, he quietly jumped on top of a house to the side of the ongoing action. From his safe spot, he heard the buildings in the Misty Mountain village collapse one by one, and the surface of the ridge started to show signs of disintegration. Zen was glad that he had evacuated the villagers of Misty Mountain village. If he hadn't done so, when these two true gods fought, the villagers would have been in deep trouble. Before, in the universe, he had seen true gods fight, and it was safe to say that their strength could even destroy a world, since their power was hundreds of times more tyrannical than a supreme lord's. Now though, these two true gods had only just destroyed a single mountain. It seemed that the restraints of strength throughout the divine land were quite great. The feather fan in Yorick's hand was both like a knife and a shield. Not only could it block Master Evil's claws, it could also slash out back at him. A strong power was condensed in the light feather fan. The power turned into a sharp blade of light, and chopped towards Master Evil. This sharp light was fast and fierce. On quite a few occasions, Master Evil had been completely unable to dodge it, and a bone-deep wound immediately appeared on his body. The smile on Yorick's face grew increasingly wider. Back in the day, he had been struck hard by Master Evil and ended up in a miserable state. After silently hiding for 7 divine eras, not only did he now have the opportunity for revenge, but he also had a sense of pride in the idea that he was going to obtain that important object. At that moment, Zen was at a loss. He had encountered Master Evil in the divine land and wanted to help him. But who knew that Master Evil would run into a powerful enemy right after he had returned to vast sky region? Zen hadn't seen it coming. In a battle of this level, even watching the fight was a great risk for Zen, much less going forward to help. Right now, the wisest decision for him was to leave. His strength was nowhere near being up to par. Humph, you evil old dog, back when you stole my good fortune, you never expected this day to come, did you? Yorick suddenly turned around with mighty speed, once again dodging Master Evil's grab with ease. He waved the feather fan and slammed it down heavily on Master Evil's body. Boom! Master Evil's frail body suddenly smashed into the whole of Misty Mountain village. The ridge, originally a maze of cracks, ultimately collapsed with a loud crash. The hill that Misty Mountain village was on was now a hollow ditch. After the small hill collapsed, the houses and pavilions that had been built there rapidly sank into the hill and fell into a huge, dark cave. Zen also involuntarily fell into the cave. As Zen fell into the depths, an overwhelming feeling of depression washed over him. It's truly inconvenient for a person in the divine land to be unable to fly, he thought to himself. As for the warriors of Sun Moon Village, those that were standing outside guarding Misty Mountain Village, they were all dumbstruck as well. How could they dare step foot into Misty Mountain Village after Master Evil told them not to go inside? Thus, they stayed where they were and remained ignorant to what went on within Misty Mountain Village. Chapter 1746, Crack on the Ball. Zen kept on falling down, colliding with random things in his way. The things found in the divine land were 1,000 times bigger than those in the universe. So if a mountain collapsed, the impact would without a doubt send a spirit transformation realm warrior or even a spirit supreme realm warrior to death. Zen's physical body was considered quite strong, so he didn't get injured when he fell. The damage to him was that he became involved in the conflict between Master Evil and Yorick. Boom, boom, boom. It turned out that there was a huge cave tucked under the Black Wind Ridge. Apparently, Master Evil set this place up as his lair because of its remoteness and covertness. He used the sealing machine in the past to completely seal the cave. Historically, only Yorick had attempted to sneak into this cave to open the sealing machine and take the treasure. However, Master Evil's sealing machine was designed so ingeniously that it remained almost impossible for anyone to take the treasure out the sealing machine without destroying it. Because of this, Yorick waited for 7 divine eras in the vast sky region, and Master Evil finally came back. However, the villagers of the Misty Mountain village were completely unaware of this. Their ancestors came to the Black Wind Ridge in the hopes to reclaim the land. They wanted to turn Black Wind Ridge into a small village, where the members of the Misty Mountain village would reside for generations. The thing was, because Yorick and Master Evil were at war in that place, the mountain collapsed. Just like Zen, Yorick and Master Evil proved to be unable to fly in the Divine Land too. At this moment, they started falling into the cave with Zen beside them. Notably, the two of them were both mid-rank true gods, so they were much stronger than Zen. Amidst a pile of rubble and ashes, Master Evil and Yorick continued to battle one another. After a long while, Zen finally dropped down to the bottom of the cave and was buried under the sand. The sand and stones found in the Divine Land were always extremely heavy. Though there seemed to be only a few stones above him, he felt as if tens of thousands of mountains were pressing down on him, inhibiting him from moving. He mimicked an earthworm to wriggle himself out. When Zen was finally able to stick his head out, he spat out all the sand and dirt from his mouth with a loud, blah. Then, he took advantage of the faint light that shot down from the top of the cave to scan the cave. The cave was not big, probably around 1,000 feet wide. In the center of the cave, there was a ball about 10 feet in diameter, and in that ball, there seemed to be a strand of light which kept flickering within it, going from bright to dark and then from dark to bright, like a firefly constantly emitting light. There's actually a living being inside this ball. Is this the treasure that Master Evil is going to take away? Zen thought. Outside there were a few light swords around 3 feet long. They slowly floated around the ball, in a defensive way. However, the dimness of the swords made it seem like they had already lost the power that they should have. Then, Zen came to his senses. This ball was the sealing machine set up by Master Evil. It was a secret technique that had been passed down throughout the entire region, and something Master Evil had obtained by chance. As everyone knew, the sealing machine was very ingenious in design. If the treasure was sealed inside, it could only be opened by the person who arranged it. If someone attempted to open the ball with the wrong methods, the light swords around the ball would activate, instantly destroying the treasure inside. That was the reason Yorick had stayed hidden for a few days. After Master Evil undid the seal on the sealing machine, the light swords lost their effects and this gave him a chance to fight for the treasure. Shoo! On the opposite side of the cave, Master Evil waved the pair of devil claws. Black smoke billowed into the air and intense evil thoughts were released, as if there was a devil present. Master Evil had also probably noticed what happened to the sealing machine. Seeing that the light swords were weakened, he pulled a long face and was eager to fight Yorick. Yorick was slightly stronger than Master Evil. His feather fan was like a white cloud, which could easily remove Master Evil's attack. However, as Master Evil tried his best to fight Yorick, he made the latter continuously retreat. Yorick, I have done all sorts of evil deeds in the past, but I didn't offend your Vitality sect in the slightest. When the Ghost sect wanted to attack your Vitality sect back then, I even stopped them. Today, you repay me by taking away my treasure. Master Evil's teeth was clenching as he said this, his mind filled with all nasty thoughts. As Yorick waved his fan, he said flatly, there is no other way. The item sealed in the sealing machine is too important. Anyone would try to take it away if they know about it. You are not my opponent, so consider giving the treasure up. How about I give you other compensation? What a joke. Master Evil let out an evil laugh, his jet black hair fluttering behind him as he uttered, back then, it was because of the treasure that I offended Bromley, and I was imprisoned for 7 divine eras before I was able to escape. Do you think I should give it to you just like that? Who do you think I am? Yorick laughed coldly. If you don't give it to me, I will take it, he said. And I will not only take away your treasure, but also your life. What do you think? As soon as Yorick finished speaking, he took a few quick steps back and flipped the fan in his hand. A layer of light suddenly appeared across the surface of the white feather fan. As the cyan light rippled, it formed into a ghost face. The ghost face's eyes were full of smiles, but its mouth was drooping downwards, looking extremely bizarre and frightening. It was not a sight for the faint-hearted. When the ghost face appeared, Yorick turned the fan around once again, and another ghost face appeared on the other side of the feather fan. In contrast, this ghost face's eyes were filled with tears, not smiles. It was equally horrifying to see. After the two ghost faces appeared, Yorick's expression began to disfigure itself. Half of his face was filled with happiness, while the other half was filled with grief. It was as if his face was split into two. Moody ghost. Before this, Yorick had used the fan in his hand to deal with the enemy all the time, but in the end, he didn't dare to face Master Evil head-on. When his face was finally formed, he charged forward. He dodged Master Evil's devil claws with a palm blade, and chopped horizontally forward. Boom, crack, crack, crack. Following a muffled sound, the devil claw on Master Evil's right hand suddenly fell to the ground. His bones were shattered and easily seen as Yorick seemed to have chopped it off. "I have told you countless times," exclaimed Yorick. "If you want to die, don't blame me for killing you." An evil grin plastered across his face as he sent out another palm strike. Crack, crack, crack. The second palm blade landed on the shoulder of Master Evil. Half the bones in his body were crushed within him as he crashed into a rock on the side of the cave. This created a hole in the rock as his body fell through it, tens of feet deep. This was surprising, because the toughness of the rocks in the Divine Land was similar to that of the Dark Star. If Zen did not use the strength source, he knew it would take some effort to break these rocks apart. It was odd. It seemed as if the rocks became weakened during the battle between Yorick and Master Evil. How could he have slammed into the rock so deeply? Crack. Just then, an extremely faint cracking sound rang from within the ball. Yorick and Master Evil had been in the middle of their battle, so they failed to even notice. From a distance, Zen was able to see everything clearly. A small crack developed down the ball, as if the treasure within was trying to break out of it. What could it be? Chapter 1747, The Mouse. That last attack had Master Evil panting for his last gasp. The energy from that palm blade that struck him was still wreaking havoc in his body, half of which was now paralyzed. Yorick, on the other hand, had a faint smile on his face as he walked towards Master Evil. "As a true god, you should know when to give up. I never got the chance to obtain that thing in the past. Do you know why I let you obtain it?" Master Evil merely lay there at the crevice and stared up at Yorick, refusing to answer. "Because I knew that it would provoke Bromley. I'm not stupid. I knew that taking something from a holy being was like courting my own death," Yorick continued. "That's why I gave up, and that's how it ended up in your hands. In the end, you were just one of my many scapegoats. 7 divine eras is indeed a long time, but our lifespans are limitless. Time is basically non-existent. Ha 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 ha." His maniacal laugh echoed in the entire cave, causing a disturbance in the stone. When Zen heard it, he immediately felt a sharp pain in his ears that made him dizzy. Despite his speech, Master Evil remained silent in front of Yorick. This made the latter feel quite bored. With a light sigh, he turned his right hand into a palm blade and once again swung towards Master Evil. Realizing that he was about to be dealt by the killing blow, Master Evil wasn't willing to just sit and wait for Yorick's attack. He also raised the devil claw on his left hand and sent it towards his opponent. Unfortunately, just one flip of Yorick's hand was enough to shatter Master Evil's devil claw. There was the sick sound of shattering bones as Master Evil's left hand was crushed under Yorick's force. Master Evil felt a surge of grief in his heart and his hand fell limply to his side. He found himself no longer able to resist what was coming. He had spent everything getting that one thing, from shaking the entire vast sky region to almost losing his life at one point. When he did manage to get it, he was inevitably caught by Bromley. Fortunately, Bromley was one of the most merciful holy beings in existence, which meant Master Evil's life was spared, but he would spend it imprisoned in the dungeon of the fairy palace. 7 divine eras, that was how long he spent in the darkness of his cell. In those 7 divine eras, it was inevitable for the vast sky region to have changed significantly. He never thought there would still be people who remembered what happened that year and came to grab that thing upon his return. With his helpless situation, Master Evil couldn't help but look at his surroundings. He saw Zen on the other side of the cave, sizing up the sealing machine he had previously arranged. Zen's intense gaze upon the sealing machine aroused Master Evil's curiosity. It seemed the cracks on the sealing machine were already increasing in number. The spot of light in the ball was clearly flickering and the frequency was getting faster and faster. "That thing, has it already hatched?" Master Evil murmured. His heart then began to beat at a wild pace. That thing had been stored for several divine eras. How could it still hatch? And at this very moment? That couldn't be right. That thing possessed extreme intelligence. Once it hatched, it would definitely know how powerful the sealing machine was. It would not dare break through this ball because if it did, it would definitely be killed by the sealing machine's swords. However, the moment he resolved this sealing machine, this thing began to break out of its shell. The crackling sounds grew louder as more cracks appeared on the ball's surface. Just as Yorick was finally about to end Master Evil, a strange sound came from behind him. He turned around and saw something fly out from within the ball and charge at him with an incomparably fast speed. Thankfully, Yorick's reflexes were quick and he was able to twist to the side to avoid whatever it was that charged at him. He then used his fan and chopped towards that thing. However, that thing was also exceptionally nimble. It merely dodged the feather fan and climbed onto Yorick's arm. It was only now that Zen finally saw what that thing was. It was a mouse, about the size of a palm. It had an extremely sharp head with a pair of long and thin tusks. On its tail was a small dot of light that continuously flickered on and off. This strange mouse had gone up Yorick's arm and suddenly burrowed itself into it. The true gods' physiques were naturally much stronger than world lords. Yorick might not be a body refiner, but he had a far stronger body than an ordinary warrior. Also, summoning the moody ghost with his feather fan earlier made him even stronger. However, this didn't seem to matter at all for the mouse, who drilled into Yorick's skin as if it was mere soft mud. It dug itself into his flesh and became a fist-sized bulge that swiftly went up along his arm. This immediately filled Yorick with anxiety. He pointed his right hand towards the bulge on his left arm with a ruthless glint in his eyes. PFF'd. A sharp, hidden force shot out from his fingertips and carved out a bloody hole on his arm. Unfortunately, this didn't seem to harm the strange mouse, who continued to move along Yorick's body. And so began Yorick's relentless pursuit of this strange mouse, leaving hole after bloody hole on his arm. In the end though, the mouse simply moved from his shoulder and began to drill into his organs. Yorick's face warped with deep fear as he felt this strange mouse gnaw his insides. As a true god, even if all of his internal organs were emptied out, he would still not die. There were only two fatal parts in his body, his cinnabar field and his soul. However, what was most amazing about this mouse was that it could gnaw an enemy's physical body while simultaneously destroying and absorbing their inner world at an extremely fast speed. If Yorick's inner world was destroyed, he would end up becoming a cripple. Realizing that he had to move fast, Yorick gritted his teeth and endured the pain of the mouse literally eating him from the inside. He pointed at his chest and continuously shot out a series of attacks. Puff, 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 puff. Numerous bloody holes appeared on his chest. Even his heart wasn't spared and blood continuously gushed forth from his body. However, the mouse remained nimble and was now quickly drilling its way to his lower abdomen. Immediately afterward, Yorick felt a numbing sensation in his cinnabar field. He fell to the ground with a plop as his body convulsed involuntarily. All of these events happened in a span of 10 seconds. Both Zen and Master Evil couldn't help but gasp in shock as they watched such a gruesome scene. What kind of mouse was that? How could it be so powerful? Not long after, Zen noticed a small bulge appear on Yorick's lower abdomen before bursting out in a spray of fresh blood. The mouse had drilled itself out of Yorick's body through his stomach. With a sassy flick of its head, it spat out a jade green thing from its mouth and onto the ground. It seemed to be an octagonal gemstone that flickered with a faint green light and emitted a unique momentum. It was Yorick's godly tile. This godly tile was incomparably sturdy and impossible to destroy. The mouse would be unable to swallow it, but it still managed to tear it out from Yorick's inner world. After spitting out the godly tile, the mouse then looked up at Zen and sized him up with its bean-sized eyes. Realizing that he was only a world lord, the mouse let out 2 squeaks and leapt towards Master Evil instead. Chapter 1748. Devouring the Soul. The mouse proved to be so extraordinarily powerful, so how could Master Evil even resist? All he did was to watch as the mouse pounced towards him, stabbing into his stomach. The mouse was very intelligent, as it seemed to understand that Master Evil had no power to resist. Thus it became even more unscrupulous. For some reason, it drilled half of its body into the body of Master Evil, greedily sucking the life vitality from Master Evil's inner world. From the outside, one could notice a slender tail hanging from his chest, emitting a small bright yellow light. Master Evil and Yorick both gave similar reactions, both with widened eyes and mouths left hanging. He trembled in horror at the sight. Not long after, with a splash of blood, a black godly tile was bitten out by the mouse. A loud sound wailed out as it was thrown to the ground. Since Master Evil had sealed the inner world with the godly tile, this prevented the mouse from devouring the creatures found in the inner world. Because of this, the mouse stripped the godly tile directly from Master Evil's inner world. Once the godly tile was removed, it extended its head into the body of Master Evil and began to frantically devour the creatures around. Zen never would have thought that the treasure Master Evil tried to hide would turn out to be such a small, yet vicious beast. After this mouse emptied out Master Evil's inner world, the one next to suffer would probably be Zen. Although Zen had a sturdy body and the redemption armor to protect him, he was afraid he wouldn't be able to resist this eccentric mouse's attacks. After making his way out of the sand, he glanced over at Master Evil with pity in his eyes. Master Evil's eyes were closed shut, and his physical body was totally damaged. Zen was not a relative nor friend of Master Evil. However, seeing him go through such a miserable death made Zen feel sorry for him. It was so tragic. Notably, Master Evil was a true god of the divine land who had sworn an inner demon oath before. If he could give Zen some help or advice, Zen would be able to deal with everything easily in the divine land, avoiding great trouble. The mouse's exposed tail was still wiggling around. While it continued devouring Master Evil's cinnabar field, Zen carefully walked towards the other side of the cave, trying not to be noticed or heard. Since he was unable to fly, it was quite difficult for him to leave the cave. However, Zen noticed a small crevice beside a rock on the left side of the cave. It could possibly be his way out. However, when Zen was halfway towards the exit, he all of a sudden felt a strong pressure coming from behind him. It was so forceful that it entered his consciousness. I didn't expect that the stone mouse would hatch this early, devour my inner world, and cripple my entire cultivation. Hence, I have to possess your body right now. You're strong and healthy, the perfect body to occupy. The soul quickly made its way into Zen's consciousness. After Yorik's cinnabar field was completely ingested by the stone mouse, his body was also destroyed but his soul remained intact. Seeing Zen's extraordinary abilities, he had already considered possessing Zen's body from the very beginning. Because Zen was just a world lord, it was easy for Yorik to make it through. Within seconds, Yorik's soul charged towards Zen's body. This took Zen by surprise and he jolted forward in reaction to the energy. Though Zen's soul had improved tremendously after consuming the emotion-closing pill, Yorik was a mid-rank true god who was more powerful than anything. His strength was far more complex than Murphy's 3 disciples, making his soul a level higher than most. Right there and then, the surface of Zen's soul was instantly suffused with miniature golden swords. Immediately, strands of formless energy surged within his consciousness and began shooting towards Yorik without hesitation. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Indeed, Yorik's soul was quite formidable. His soul was already so complex and high up that Zen couldn't seem to understand it. Once he entered Zen's mind, he ignored Zen and just aimed to kill his soul. This would allow him to occupy the body quicker. However, streaks of sharp energy began to come off Zen's soul like many small formless swords. If one owned the ordinary gold fighting soul, they would have already been penetrated by the small formless swords. For some reason, there were only a few small cuts on the surface of Yorik's soul once the energy was released. Even so, Yorik's soul quivered in fright. He didn't expect Zen's soul pressure to be so overpowering. Furthermore, the pain from his damaged soul was the most intense it had ever experienced. The face on Yorik's soul body immediately turned and twisted in pain. "You are quite silly to even think of resisting," said Yorik. "You, a mere world lord, have a soul that has reached such a notably high level. It seems that you must have come from a wealthy clan on a floating island. However, I will still devour your memories to replace your soul. I will complete all of your regrets in this life." Those sharp swords formed from Zen's soul pressure were unable to cause any damage to Yorik. For some reason, Yorik withstood the soul pressure and walked forward. Suddenly, his hands formed into a pair of giant claws that stretched out to grasp Zen's soul. Soul-devouring technique. The moment the pair of giant claws reached out, they twisted and formed a circular cage that enveloped Zen's soul. It was of common knowledge that in taking someone's body shell, one would have to destroy the soul occupying it first. But as of the moment, Yorik not only wanted to take over Zen's physical body, but also wanted to swallow Zen's soul and read through his memories. This way, he would be able to completely replace Zen without anyone noticing. However, Zen continuously released his soul pressure, trying to get out of the cage of 2 hands. Despite his efforts, he was unable to break through the circular cage and slowly lost hope. If Yorik replaced him, he knew that the consequences would be endless. Not only was he unable to break out of this cage, but it became more and more difficult for his soul to move. There seemed to be an invisible force suppressing his soul while at the same time, quickly going through his memories. You are actually the son of Mike." After Yorik read a portion of Zen's memories, his soul was slightly stunned before a look of bliss spread across his face. If Zen was really the son of Mike, then he would obtain all of Mike's wondrous inheritance. If Zen had controlled the secrets of the holy being, then that would be the greatest treasure of all. If he knew earlier of Zen's identity, he would have gone through this entire process even before the mouse hatched. However, just as Yorick was devouring Zen's soul, Master Evil's soul soared out of his mind and entered Zen's, too. Yorick, I will not let you off. Master Evil had just returned to the Divine Land but was harmed by Yorick to such an extent. In addition, his cinnabar field and physical body had also been destroyed by the stone mouse. Now that his soul managed to escape his lifeless body, he was going to seek revenge on Yorick at all costs. The soul of Master Evil was naturally powerful. As soon as it entered Zen's mind, it went straight for Yorick's soul. Without any hesitation, the two souls fiercely collided with each other with a strong, forceful impact of energy. It was also because of Master Evil's attack that Yorick was forced to stop consuming Zen's soul. Immediately, Zen felt a sense of relief and seized this opportunity to break free from Yorick's claws. Chapter 1749, A Lose-Lose. That narrow escape from death threw Zen's mind into turmoil. He never thought he would almost lose his life in this small mountain village. If it weren't for Master Evil's soul rushing into his mind at the most critical moment, then his soul would have already been devoured by Yorick. He had lost his father's help ever since he left the evolutionary universe. He no longer enjoyed the privileges of having a miraculous destiny as he did in the past. Danger lurked in every corner of this divine land he found himself in. Master Evil's and Yorick's souls were entangled together and fought fiercely in Zen's mind. Cultivating souls was not an easy feat, not even for true gods. During the time that Master Evil spent locked up in the fairy palace, Yorick's cultivation had increased quite a bit. It was true that Master Evil was not his match, but the difference between them wasn't extraordinary. In the end, the fight between these true gods concluded with a draw. If he were to die, then Master Evil was determined to pull Yorick down with him. However, Yorick had already waited for so many years and he wasn't willing to die in this fight. Stop, Yorick roared before another round began. Do you know who this brat is? However, Master Evil wasn't listening. There was a crazed look in his eyes as countless spikes appeared on the surface of his soul before it charged towards Yorick again. That boy is the son of a holy being. His soul contains great secrets. Once I get his soul and read his memories, I can share them with you. I can even create a powerful body for you in the future. Yorick said, dodging Master Evil's attack. HMPH, I already know about everything you just said. You're too sly. How can I ever trust you? I won't stop until I kill you. I will definitely shatter your soul. Master Evil had taken the inner demon oath. Even if he already knew Zen's identity, he couldn't really make a move against him. In the end, Yorick's offer was no good for him at all. Besides, Yorick was sly and once he took over Zen's soul, he would definitely attack Master Evil. Only a 3-year-old would believe Yorick's supposed compromise. We can negotiate. However, before Yorick could even finish his words, Master Evil was already charging at him. The latter stretched out and grabbed onto his opponent's soul. What is there to be negotiated? Go to perdition, soul-destroying flame. Sizzle. From Master Evil's soul burst forth green flames. He was burning his own soul and attempting to also burn Yorick's in the process. He was truly serious in bringing his opponent down with him. The green flames seemed to have great destructive power against souls. Even Zen felt the extraordinary heat and had to step back for his safety. Yorick let out a miserable shriek as the green flames spread towards him. As a response, a layer of yellow luster appeared on the surface of his soul body, almost like a tortoiseshell. It was a kind of soul technique meant to increase the defensive power of the soul. Unfortunately, it was not enough against Master Evil's soul-destroying flame. The shell quickly gave in under the heat of the flames. It was at that moment that Yorick finally realized that Master Evil had already gone mad. In his desperation, he also decided to go all out and burn his own soul. However, just as he was about to release his own flames, a sharp aura shot out from behind him. It was Zen whose soul pressure had once again turned into many small arrows that were aimed towards Yorick. These small arrows couldn't necessarily pierce through Yorick, but it served as an effective pressuring tactic. He couldn't possibly deal with two opponents at the same time and hope to survive. Puff 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 puff. The soul-destroying flame had already greatly weakened Yorick's soul and Zen's arrows might just tear it apart. We can still discuss this. But before he could even finish his sentence, his soul had already shattered, torn apart by Zen's arrows. Now, Yorick's soul being weak, and in pieces, the soul-destroying flame quickly incinerated whatever fragment remained of Yorick until there was nothing left. Swoosh! A tiny soul fragment circled around Zen's mind once more, a tiny remnant of Yorick. Some soul techniques were incredibly powerful that even if the only thing left was a soul fragment, it would be enough to preserve all memories and give one the chance to make a comeback so long as an appropriate body could be found. Master Evil did not notice this soul fragment in his rage, and it began to quietly slip out of Zen's mind. The soul fragment was secretly rejoicing its imminent escape. They might have thought they had ended him, but he managed to slip out at the last possible second. However, it seemed that the soul fragment celebrated too soon. Zen suddenly opened his eyes and filled the space with a flash of golden light. An incomparably sharp soul pressure shot out a small arrow and struck the soul fragment, shattering it instantly. Zen blinked and once again closed his eyes. Yorick's soul fragment had carried Zen's memories, and there were some secrets that he couldn't afford to leak out, so he had to eliminate it completely. Master Evil remained in Zen's mind, at the brink of death as a consequence of burning his soul. The green flames were already extinguished, but his soul was now incredibly translucent. He looked fragile, like a candle that could easily be blown away by the wind. He quietly floated in Zen's mind. This formerly wicked old man now had sorrow painted all over his face. He stared up at Zen, who stood nearby. Alas! Zen sighed and quietly floated towards Master Evil, sending out his soul force. He knew that Master Evil was not a good person, but he never meant any harm to him. He had previously agreed to help him but did not expect such a sudden turn of events. Zen poured his soul force into Master Evil's soul and somewhat filled it with energy. A true god's soul might be powerful, but once it was seriously injured, it would be terribly difficult to repair it. Fortunately, Zen was at least able to bring it back from the precipice of collapse. Master Evil couldn't help but stare at Zen with a complicated expression. "Why did you save me?" he asked. He definitely wasn't someone Zen could trust, and he knew that the young man wasn't stupid. Why in the world would he help a wicked old man like him? "I still need your help. You can't die now," Zen answered simply. "My physical body has already been destroyed and my cultivation is gone. My soul, the only thing left of me, is a mere dying candle. I am no different from a dead person." Ha ha, Master Evil laughed as if mocking himself. Maybe it was because of the state of his soul, maybe it was because he was sad, or maybe it was both, but it seemed as if he had lost the courage and the will to live on. "Isn't there still a chance? You can still seize this opportunity," Zen told him. Seize this opportunity? Master Evil lowered his head in thought. He was previously afraid of Murphy, so he didn't dare involve himself in the battle between holy beings. He only truly wanted to regain his past glory in the vast sky region. Now, all he was left with was his soul, so did he really have any other choice? Someone like Zen had terribly great potential. If he could achieve astonishing things and find a place in the Hall of Holy Beings, then it might not be impossible for the young man to help him recover his physical body and increase his cultivation by leaps and bounds. With this in mind, Master Evil's eyes shone bright with hope for the future. Chapter 1750, Run Away. Master Evil thought that Zen's origins and his status were both extraordinary. Although the floating island that was built by Mike years ago had collapsed, his disciples were still very active. Harold, Mike's chief disciple, was still a well-known figure in the Divine Land. However, Master Evil didn't understand that Zen had stepped into the Divine Land like a headless fly, and almost got lost in the vast sky region. Not only that, but he also stayed within a small mountain village in the north of the vast sky region for a long time. Master Evil did not know that Zen had been sent to the vast sky region because he had sneaked into the Divine Land. Wynn had carefully chosen the place to secure his first foothold, since it was a small region, which didn't make it stand out much in the Divine Land. Furthermore, it was a relatively stable region, so it also wasn't too dangerous. The deep voice of Master Evil spoke, "I am a true god, and the only goal of my life is to rule over a region. I used to be too bloody and ruthless, which is why I am called Master Evil. Right now, I am hopeless as I have fallen into this kind of situation. I am willing to give up this chance, but if you need my help, I will do my best to help." His usually sinister and vicious eyes were filled with sincerity as he spoke to Zen. It was truly shocking, especially if someone else had seen his expression. A faint smile danced across Zen's lips. Although Master Evil's words were believable, he didn't have to take them seriously. He didn't completely believe that Master Evil didn't want to regain his body. However, Zen wouldn't treat him shabbily in the future. At that moment, Zen's expression suddenly changed. "Oh no," he yelled. Back when Master Evil and Yorick had been in a fierce battle in Zen's mind, the stone mouse had devoured Master Evil's belly and leapt down from his body. It looked like it had been longing for something, but now, its eyes were glued on Zen, who was at the side of the cave. Its small, beady eyes were dim as it looked at him. Since Zen was just a world lord, the mouse thought that he was far from being as delicious as a true god, but he was still good food. Thus, the mouse dashed towards Zen once again at an incredible speed. Run. The stone mouse is a one-of-a-kind true spirit. Even though it has just hatched, it still has a huge part of its strength from its previous life. Master Evil nervously said in Zen's mind. It was known that many of the true spirits in the divine land were strange in form. The one-of-a-kind true spirit was really the only one of its kind in the divine land, just as its name suggested. For instance, the stone mouse was a unique being in the divine land. There was no second or other stone mice ever, so it could never reproduce. However, it had a miraculous ability of reincarnation. After it died, a strange mouse-shaped stone materialized in a large mountain in the divine land. This stone absorbed the vitality between heaven and earth for countless years, and then slowly evolved into the stone mouse, and that very mouse was in fact the reincarnation of the previous dead mouse. The reincarnated mouse possessed a large part of its strength from its previous life, which was why it was much stronger than even a mid-rank true god after it had hatched. Therefore, Zen was no match for the mouse given his current cultivation level. He had learned his lesson from what had happened to Yorick and Master Evil, so he hastily ran away. After a few moments, he quickly entered the hole beside the cave. Run to the left, Master Evil reminded Zen. It was Master Evil who had carved the small cave in the past, so he knew the way around it very well. But even if Zen was by no means slow, mouse-type creatures were exceptionally swift, and the stone mouse was much faster than Zen when it chased after him. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Because the mouse was blessed with the strength from its past life, it quickly chased after Zen without breaking much sweat. It let out sharp cries as it ran, which actually sounded a bit playful. It climbed along the side of the small hole at an astonishing speed, and its distance from Zen continued to be closer. In the blink of an eye, the mouse was only 3 or 4 feet away from Zen. It stomped down with its tiny but powerful feet and immediately pounced at him. 8 smoky melodies. Zen frowned as he attacked. He couldn't fly nor use the grand teleportation technique, and was left with no choice but his movement technique. Although the stone mouse was fast, it didn't expect that Zen had such an ingenious movement technique. It was why even if it had jumped towards him so quickly, he was able to move his body away as if it was a weightless piece of paper. The mouse continued to push Zen forward with its exposed tusks, and maintained a distance of a few inches from him. When Zen saw this opportunity, he accelerated his speed and ran along the cave. Then again, the mouse was also extraordinarily intelligent. Ever since Zen had dodged its first pounce, it seemed to have seen through the ingenuity of the 8 smoky melodies. Therefore, it wasted no time in bouncing off the mountain wall and proceeded to pounce again from a different angle. The angle which the mouse launched itself forced Zen into a corner of the cave. While his 8 smoky melodies was indeed speedy as well, the technique required space for him to back off and avoid his opponent. After Zen was backed against the wall, he could only move in a horizontal direction along it. Just then, the stone mouse smoothly moved nearer to Zen and extended its 2 long, thin tusks towards his abdomen. Bang! There was a muffled sound, and it turned out that the mouse's tusks didn't penetrate Zen's belly, but made contact with his redemption armor. While the true gods had many ways to pierce through the redemption armor and subsequently injure Zen, his redemption armor had been made by Holy Drew. It was made from the source of the godly tile, which made it truly unbreakable. The mouse charged forward and attacked with its 2 tusks, but it seemed like it had just hit a steel plate. It couldn't injure Zen even in the slightest. Your armor. When Master Evil saw that Zen couldn't avoid the mouse after all, he thought that the young man would die. Thus, he was extremely surprised to see the unbelievable long robe Zen wore in action. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The cave was filled with the stone mouse's angry shrieks. It was frustrated as it also knew that Zen's ordinary-looking robe was indestructible. It continued to pounce again until it had actually went through the collar of Zen's robe. Zen's redemption armor could be moved according to his will and quickly covered his whole body at the most critical moments. However, the mouse's speed and reaction time continued to defy Zen's imagination. Before he could cover his entire body with the redemption armor, he felt a sharp pain from his shoulder. The stone mouse had bitten him there. It was true that Zen's physical body was tougher than both Master Evil's and Yorick's. However, the stone mouse had some sort of theurgy, and even something as sturdy as Zen's body couldn't stop it. Soon enough, the mouse was able to freely travel in Zen's body. It didn't take long before the mouse had drilled into Zen's abdomen, and it was about to thrust its tusks into Zen's elixir field. Just then, the black lines that wrapped around his elixir field suddenly glowed and enveloped the mouse's tusks. The black lines had successfully prevented the mouse from devouring Zen's inner world. The black lines were there to block the connection between Zen and his inner world. If the stone mouse wanted to drill into Zen's elixir field, it would naturally have to cross the black lines first. However, the stone mouse had never seen such strange objects in any of the memories it inherited. Thus, the sight of the unfamiliar black lines caused it to be even more aggressive. Chapter 1751, The Evil God. After several frustrated shrieks, the stone mouse suddenly thrust its tusks in a burst of anger and tried to cut off the black threads. The black threads were extremely difficult to deal with. Zen had tried to continuously melt them with his golden blood, but a small portion of the threads still remained tied to his elixir field. To his astonishment, the stone mouse's tusks managed to break off the black threads. After the last black line was broken, the stone mouse didn't hesitate in the slightest as it put its pair of tusks into his elixir field and urgently absorbed Zen's inner world. Zen was swathed in a numbing sensation which came from inside his body. He couldn't help the shiver that ran down his back. He couldn't resist at all, and it made him extremely anxious. When Master Evil saw the scene, he felt powerless and couldn't do anything about it. The stone mouse was simply too strong. Had Zen completely controlled the little creature before it had hatched, then things would have gone so much better. Unfortunately, the stone mouse had woken up on its own. It became a little demon after it had inherited the memories of the past, and not even a true god could confidently face such a beast. However, just as the stone mouse had sucked in a few mouthfuls of energy from Zen's inner world, it abruptly pulled out its sharp tusks and squeaked out in pain. It crawled out from Zen's shoulder and fell onto the ground. Its body was suffering a spasm like crazy and its limbs writhed around helplessly. Meanwhile, Master Evil in Zen's mind couldn't believe what he just saw. What's wrong with the stone mouse? He wondered. Zen's body returned to normal after the stone mouse had retracted its tusks from his elixir field. Although the stone mouse had drilled into his body and he had suffered a lot of internal injuries, he was still able to endure the pain. He too looked at the convulsing rat in surprise, but quickly realized something. The stone mouse's attempt to absorb his inner world was actually a method of absorbing life vitality. In addition, it possessed a very unique innate theurgy that enabled it to devour the entire inner world, including the secondary creatures living inside. However, the inner world in Zen's elixir field was formed directly from chaotic energy, which was highly toxic to living beings. It was known that in the divine land, only the holy beings could resist the poison contained in the chaotic energy and enter the worlds outside of the divine land. As for the life vitality absorbed by the true gods, they had to rely on the four great divine trees to convert the chaotic energy into vitality between heaven and earth so that they could properly consume it. The flourishing roots of the four great divine trees extended outside the divine land and were up to tens of millions of miles long. Those roots would get corroded when they absorbed chaotic energy. However, the four divine trees all possessed unique theurgies and tenacious life energies. When their roots broke from corrosion, the trees grew even more roots to take their places at an extremely fast speed. Once the stone mouse had absorbed Zen's inner world, so too did it consume the chaotic energy directly into its body. There was no way the mouse could ever resist its poison. After the mouse crawled helplessly for a little bit, it ended up being paralyzed at the side. Its small, intelligent eyes were now a dull yellow, and it spat out a pool of green liquid from its mouth. It let out another painful squeak before it eventually died. The chaotic energy had always been Zen's most secret weapon. However, the primal chaos technique was not something he could directly use. He could only extract the chaotic energy and use it as life vitality. Some people in the universe had their speculations about the existence of the chaotic energy in Zen's body, including Lone's broken sword. Still, none of them had figured out where it came from. Now that Zen was in the divine land, he had to be even more careful about such matters. Unless he had no other choice, it was impossible for him to release the chaotic energy straight away. The situation confused Master Evil, but he guessed that Zen's elixir field might contain a highly toxic poison. But what kind of poison could kill a powerful true spirit like the stone mouse? Furthermore, how did Zen hide such a highly toxic poison in his elixir field? Zen didn't explain anything to Master Evil, but he was relieved that he had still managed to escape death. Since the danger had been resolved, Zen sat down cross-legged on the ground and activated the energy in his elixir field to heal his wounds. When the stone mouse had drilled into his shoulder, he was left with a gaping, bloody wound. Even his internal organs had been injured. On the bright side, the stone mouse had helped him sever those troublesome black lines and remove the barrier between him and his elixir field. However, just as he was about to draw out chaotic energy to heal himself, his face twisted in horror. With the quickest speed possible, his soul transformed into an incarnation and flew into his own inner world. Zen had just completely lost contact with his inner world over the last few days, so he clearly couldn't monitor the changes within it. Yet in just a short amount of time, his vast inner world had already experienced a long period of development, and the creatures inside it had undergone earth-shattering changes as well. When it had been under Zen's protection, the human race had progressed rapidly. Now, the several great divine kingdoms were powerless, and a peerless warrior was born amidst the chaos, the evil god. The evil god was at the spirit transformation realm, which made him a peak warrior already in Zen's inner world. Under the evil god's rule, he had successfully reclaimed all of the shattered continents and formed the largest sacred place, the evil cloud's sacred place. Moreover, he proclaimed himself to be a goodness, and announced to the world that he, the evil god, had created the whole world. At the start of the evil god's reign, his words had been met with disapproval from the people. But being the ruthless evil god that he was, he slaughtered anyone who dared to doubt him. Therefore, more than 3 million humans died in the massacre. Zen's inner world was in an early period, and the total number of humans inside his body was only a little more than 10 million. However, the evil god alone had killed about 1/3 of all life form. It was no surprise that Zen was enraged. At that moment, his incarnation floated high up in the sky and observed at the many continents below him. His gaze finally locked onto a gray continent. As the controller of the inner world, Zen had the ability to know everything. With just a thought, he knew that the evil god was on this continent. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew sharply as Zen dashed towards the gray continent. He never expected that just as he was halfway through, the 9 stars in the sky suddenly started to spin. The surface of the 9 stars each formed a profound rune, from which a colorful beam of light shot out. Once all the powers the strength source had formed gathered together, they turned into a colorful arrow that was aimed directly towards Zen. "What?" he exclaimed. He couldn't believe the scene in front of him. He didn't activate the strength source, yet the strength source actually had the audacity to attack him. Although the runes weren't powerful, they had already extracted the powers of the strength source. Thus, that arrow made from the strength source alone was enough to kill an ordinary world lord. However, it would be a fantasy if the arrow did kill Zen. After all, he was the real controller of the 9 stars. When the colorful arrow was only an inch away from him, he spat out the word, "Freeze." Then, the arrow immediately stopped in front of his chest and was unable to advance any longer. Chapter 1752, Talent. With a mere wave of Zen's hand, the colorful arrow dissipated into streaks of colors as they made their way back to the 9 stars. Zen gazed downward again as he sneered at the puny attack on him. He didn't expect that someone with such talent was born in his inner world. The evil god already knew of his existence. On his own, he had actually created 9 divine textures which he had sent to each of the 9 stars. He had planned to kill Zen using the power of the 9 stars once Zen entered into his inner world. Disregarding the fact that the evil god didn't have an inch of chance in winning against him, Zen was still praising him for being able to put up a fight until this point. "Let me see if you really are a stunning and extraordinary person." Zen laughed coldly and continued to move towards that continent. Due to Zen's presence and support, the human race within the inner world had no competition in regards to their power. Smack in the middle of that continent was a law tablet that Zen had intentionally flung down in the past. Currently, this tablet resided in the palace which was built upon the highest place. The tablet was even considered a divine object, as it was impossible for ordinary martial artists to comprehend the law tablet. Even though these creatures were born and existed inside Zen's inner world, he had no control over their thoughts or ability to dictate their behavior. To hoard treasure or anything precious and keep it for oneself was the natural instinct of almost all creatures. Atop the highest mountain, on its very peak, a massive altar was built. Multitudes of martial artists gathered around it. They constantly knelt down and worshipped a statue on the altar. Upon closer look, it was the statue of the evil god himself. "He's gathering the faith energy." After the evil god cultivated himself to the maximum level he could reach within Zen's inner world, his cultivation base was no longer able to increase. Because Zen had only reached the world lord level, the evil god's cultivation base could only reach the spirit transformation realm. If he wanted to become stronger, the evil god had actually thought of utilizing the faith energy. Currently, Zen wasn't in need of any faith energy. Lacking a godly tile, he wouldn't be able to utilize the faith energy within his inner world. Only after condensing his own godly tile would the faith energy become available for him to use, and his strength would increase by a whole level. But given the evil god's ongoing attempt to gather the faith energy of the entire world, it did not bode well for Zen. After all, Faith energy was limited, and if the evil god continued to siphon it off using his own idol, it would have long-lasting effects on the world. By then, it would be difficult for Zen to reverse the effects. On one side of that tall mountain was a palace. Supported by 3 stone pillars, each 20,000 feet in length, the entire palace gave the impression that it was completely suspended in midair. If one was to stand on the outermost circular balcony of the palace, the coastline of the eastern continent could be seen. On this balcony stood 2 people, a man and a woman. The man was stoic, a cold expression on his face. The woman was delicate, beautiful, slim, and graceful. This man was considered by everyone as the strongest person in the world. The title, Evil God, was given to him by the people. The woman was the princess of the sky-defending empire and also the wife of the evil god. He's here. The power of 9 stars indeed has no effect on him. The evil god's gaze was calm and collected. He knew that he was up for a fight with a strong opponent that he might not be able to defeat. That opponent was also the god of creation of this world. The woman leaned her head on the evil god's broad shoulder, worry etched in her features. From the historical records we have, it seems that this person is philanthropic. Do you really need to make an enemy out of him? When he heard this, the evil god's expression became proud and aloof. I pursue freedom in my whole life, and I don't want to be ruled by anyone else. I have always been the only one who controlled others. I cannot permit anyone else to be in control of my destiny. In preparation for his fight against Zen, the evil god was required to do a lot of things. He had collected some of the traces Zen left behind in history. He had also found some key facts from legends, and even dared to estimate Zen's strength. But he is significantly stronger than you, the woman softly reminded him. The evil god laughed coldly. Indeed, the difference between our strengths might not really be so large. I am the only one who has reached the spirit transformation realm in the entire world. According to my calculations, there should only be 2 great realms above the spirit transformation realm. After transcending these 2 realms, one's cultivation level would have already reached the end. Spirit Supreme Realm warriors and world lords did not exist in this world. However, the evil god had relied on his own ability and was able to deduce that Zen was a world lord, even though he had no idea of what a world lord was and the extent of a world lord's strength. He also wasn't aware that there were higher levels than the world lord level, Supreme Lord, True God, and Holy Being. After all, the evil god was only a part of Zen's inner world, but it was already extraordinary for him to be able to assume that there were 2 more great realms. With the strength I currently have, I can still defeat my opponent even if he is stronger than me. He may be 2 levels stronger than me, but using my previously prepared arrangement, I still have a chance to triumph over him. The evil god pronounced coldly, his eyes filled with determination. What he did not know was that once Zen really perished, this entire inner world would be destroyed as well. Everything in this world would collapse, eventually dissipating into the chaos. Whoosh! Zen traced a thin line in midair and crossed over the mountain. He circled above the palace and flew towards the balcony at the perimeter of the palace. He caught sight of the man on the balcony, and he looked down upon him. Are you, the evil god? Zen asked flatly. The evil god's mouth turned up into a smile. He immediately embraced the woman in his arms and leapt into the air with her. He jumped onto a higher level space and looked down at Zen. Only then did he laugh in response. That's right, I am the evil god. Disperse your totem that collects the faith energy, and dissolve your evil cloud sacred place. Do these and I will spare your life, otherwise, you will die, Zen warned. The woman only blinked her eyes and stared at the god of creation hundreds of feet away from them. She did not say anything. As she had read through many historical records, this god of creation had a reputation for being kind. He had also repeatedly prevented martial artists from killing each other. It was also known that it was him who condensed the laws that he had comprehended into the law tablets and erected them all over the world to let martial artists comprehend and cultivate. In her heart, the woman did not really want to make an enemy of the god of creation. After all, he created this world and every living being in it. However, it was her husband who had a great ambition. He didn't want to be trapped and limited in this small world. He knew that there was a greater space in the outside world. He even predicted that there were beings who existed in the outside world that were stronger than the god of creation. Thus, she and her husband could only come up with a crazy plan to exterminate the god. Trying to kill Zen using the power of 9 stars was only a preliminary step. They expected that it was naturally bound to fail. However, the moment that the woman saw Zen, she had a feeling in her heart that her husband was bound to lose. Spare my life. The evil god laughed and added, from the day I was born, no one has been able to get a chance to kill me. Even you are not qualified to do so. Zen's brows knitted slightly when he heard this. He cared greatly for the creatures in his inner world. If the evil god agreed to his request, he would be able to let him off. Countless times, Zen wasn't willing to disrupt the balance in his inner world, he just let the creatures develop on their own. Furthermore, this evil god indeed possessed extraordinary creativity and talent, he also had the qualifications and the right to be arrogant. It was a pity that he did not have an inkling of how arrogant he was. Then I'd like to personally check if I'm qualified enough, Zen spoke with great curiosity. He wanted to see what the evil god could accomplish. Chapter 1753, The Evil God's Tactics. Humph, the evil god snorted, the light in his eyes shining with a cold intensity that could make his weaker adversaries retreat in fear. Specks of starlight shot out swiftly, hitting all corners of the hall. A total of 9 specks of starlight had been released, corresponding to the 9 stars in the sky. He truly wants to borrow the power of the stars. Zen shook his head, raising an eyebrow in disbelief. When the holy beings built universes, they usually masked the 9 stars. Creatures of the universes could not borrow their strength source. Holy J was the only among them who allowed the collapsing mountain race to use his strength source as they wished. When Zen constructed the 9 divine stars, he had placed the 9 stars into his body in advance, without much hindrance. On his own, however, the evil god had observed the heavenly bodies every night and developed a set of star battle techniques using his talent. Rumble. The 9 stars in the sky began spinning, the motion causing a roaring sound. As they whirled, Zen felt as if nearly 1% of his strength source had melted from his body. The 9 dots of starlight behind the evil god only swelled in size. They were like endlessly flowing waterfalls that inched toward him willingly. The woman beside the evil god was now floating in the air. Her eyes were shut and her pair of soft hands were tightly clasped together. She appeared to be concentrating fervently. When she pulled her hands apart, a ray of light stretched out from between them like elastic, swiftly transforming into a purple sword. Dense faith energy emanated from the sword. The sword was in fact a faith weapon. As she hurled the sword toward her husband, the 9 white dots entered the body of the sword. The evil god grabbed the sword and wielded it in the air, thrusting it straight at Zen. In the face of this strike from the evil god, a small smile pulled at the corners of Zen's mouth. What a peculiar sword technique! He exclaimed in lordly praise. Did you create it yourself? Saying this, Zen reached out with a finger and flicked the sword before the evil god knew it. Clatter! A loud sound rang out. Zen had successfully managed to toss over the long sword to the side. The evil god's face darkened as he retracted his sword. A ray of sword light set loose and his body flew toward Zen once again. His sword strike was invincible, but Zen nonchalantly extended a finger and lightly flicked the sword again. Clatter! The sword seemed to wither like a leaf as it halted in its attack and drooped down. The rhythm of the evil god's attacks grew faster and more abrupt, but Zen's fingers retaliated in a similar fashion. A series of crisp rhythmic sounds echoed in the air as this back and forth exchange carried on. The evil god had exhausted all his energy in his strikes, while Zen had merely used one finger. The difference in strength between the two was beyond question. Do you think I'm qualified now? Zen asked as he gripped the sword with 2 fingers this time. Suddenly, the evil god revealed a mysterious smile. No. The moment he finished speaking, the woman beside him, a spectator to the fight, closed her eyes. Halos appeared above her head one after the other like ripples in water. At the same time, the halos extended over to Zen's head, enveloping him within their light. What's going on? Zen was stunned to see it. He suddenly felt immobilized. The halos seemed to have cut off the connection between his soul and the incarnation within his body. You have been bested. Now go to perdition. As the evil god's voice resounded in the air, he pushed his sword forward. The 9 dots of light burst forth intensely, flashing with the intense power contained within them. They broke away from Zen's hand and turned toward his incarnation. Puff! The long sword pierced Zen's body, slicing him in half before he fell toward the ground with a loud thump. Zen's incarnation comprised chaotic energy and a thought. After his incarnation was cut off, no blood flowed out of his body. As he fell, the chaotic energy began to dissipate, rapidly vanishing from the evil god's field of vision. Did I succeed? As the woman saw the god of creation's body disappear, her eyes widened with disbelief. She had never imagined that killing the god of creation would be as easy as falling off a log. She did it without breaking a sweat. The evil god smirked. As I said before, even the god of creation has weaknesses. His kindness has determined his fate. Before Zen had arrived, the evil god and the woman had scrutinized his personality and predicted all his possible reactions. It could be said that they had taken advantage of Zen's goodwill. Several martial artists had rebellious beings like the evil god brewing plots and expanding in power within their inner worlds. Most martial artists dealt with these rebels by straightaway eliminating them. Zen, who had lost his incarnation, opened his eyes, a dumbfounded expression lingering on his face. He had been deceived by the creatures of his own inner world. Fortunately, he was the only one aware of it. Others in possession of this piece of information would be in stitches over it. Moments before, the woman had used some kind of secret technique to cut off the connection between his soul and the incarnation. Zen had never anticipated it. However, Zen only needed some chaotic energy to create an incarnation once again if he wished. Zen could not just brush aside matters regarding the evil god calmly. He must learn that his actions had consequences. Thus, Zen once again closed his eyes and condensed an incarnation from within his inner world. He vanished from sight and reappeared, now standing before the evil god once again. A smug smile still adorned the evil god's features, who thought he had killed the god of creation for good. However, at this moment as his gaze took in Zen's form once again, the smile froze on his face. "You can continue," Zen said, smiling back faintly. The evil god stared at Zen for a long while without uttering a word. Although he was clever and astute, he did not possess any concept of the real world. It was even more impossible for him to imagine that the god of creation was just an incarnation that could materialize at any given moment. The light in his eyes flickered as he let out a furious roar. He brandished the sword in his hand once again. The 9 stars on the sword sparkled. Rays of sword light rushed out, beginning to assault Zen like a tempest. Zen, however, turned his head and smiled at the woman. Previously, Zen's incarnation had been defeated by her Thurgi, but a single glance from him rendered the woman paralyzed. Zen then lifted his index finger and pointed at the sword. An irresistible force blocked it, and with a light tap of his finger, it broke into pieces. Shock surfaced on the face of the evil god just as Zen disappeared from his line of sight. Just as suddenly Zen had appeared, he vanished without a trace. There were no law fluctuations. The evil god had no way of seizing Zen or his figure. "You're smart and you realize that you exist in an illusory world, but your mind is imprisoned." Suddenly, Zen's voice boomed in all directions. The evil god looked up and around, but he still could not feel any energy fluctuations. Zen's modus operandi had completely escaped his comprehension abilities. Boom! As Zen's form appeared again, his knee crashed fiercely onto the face of the evil god. Boom! The evil god had been struck. He plummeted and collided straight into the palace below. In this world, the evil god's palace was known as the Palace of Marvels. The impact of the crash caused the 320,000-foot pillars in the palace to collapse like a house of cards. Smoke and dust billowed, and rubble fell. The evil god's palace had caved in. The sight was gruesome. It was a clear sign of his defeat. The evil god was imprisoned within the mountains. As he looked up at Zen in the sky, the fire in his eyes continued to blaze and spark. Even when at the end of his road, he would not admit defeat. As for the woman imprisoned by Zen, her face was deathly pale. Just as she had anticipated, her husband had suffered a crushing defeat. They had no option but to bend their knees. She had known that they were not on the same level. "I can introduce you to the real world someday, but this is not the right time," continued Zen. Zen had once tried to place the creatures in his inner world into the universe rather successfully. The creatures had not lost their lives. According to his own deductions, his inner world and the divine land were on the same level, so logically, the creatures in his inner world would encounter no hindrance in entering the divine land. Upon hearing Zen's words, the previously tameless evil god raised his head and looked at Zen with hope in his eyes. "Do you truly mean it?" he asked. Eagerness etched his face. Chapter 1754, The Stone Mouse's Corpse. "I don't need to lie to you. As a matter of fact, it would only take me a single thought to kill you," Zen continued to say. The evil god froze. His wife had deduced that the god of creation had the ability to get rid of any living beings and wasn't someone they could contend against by just relying on their own strength. Quite unfortunately, the evil god was extremely stubborn and was determined to eliminate this god of creation himself, causing him to end up like this. It was like he was a joke in the god of creation's eyes. Zen could have easily killed him off, but he gave him a chance instead. Why give me a chance?" the evil god asked cautiously. The way Zen dealt with things greatly differed from what the evil god had thought. He had lost and he had thought that he would die for sure, but why did Zen spare his life and even help him? This had to be a trap. To his surprise, Zen smiled. "Just do as I say. You're not qualified to collect faith energy. Don't get me wrong, I may be giving you a chance, but it has nothing to do with you." With that, Zen's avatar quietly dissipated. As soon as Zen disappeared, the woman in the sideline regained her freedom to move. She ran straight to her husband and bit her lip in worry. "Are you all right? Why did he do that?" she asked. "Why did he say that it had nothing to do with you?" The woman was also left confused by Zen's words. The evil god was embedded in the mountain, still in a daze. "It has nothing to do with me, nothing to do with me." Not long after, the evil god scoffed and looked at his wife. He smiled wryly. "If I spare an ant, is it because of the ant itself?" The woman shook her head. "Of course not. That's what I am in his eyes. An ant." The woman blinked in realization. He is a life form at a level which is beyond our comprehension, and it's normal for him to think of us as ants. The evil god sneered and his eyes burned with flames. "I will prove to him that this ant is an extremely special ant." Truth be told, the evil god was indeed a special ant in Zen's eyes. With the population steadily growing in Zen's inner world, the appearance of unique existences was inevitable. With his omniscient ability, Zen knew that the evil god had completely comprehended the law tablets that he had placed in his inner world. Not only that, but he had also comprehended a portion of the ice soul flame when he entered the ice field. In addition, his attainments in the runes had also reached a high level. Zen did not pass down the divine texture technique into his inner world, but the evil god was able to rely on his own comprehension to activate the power of the 9 stars through the original runes. Even in the divine land, this kind of talent and perception would be considered extraordinary, let alone in any of the universes. When he encountered such talent, it was only natural that he valued him, which was why he only asked him to dissolve the totem of faith and eliminate the totem of evil god, so as not to affect Zen's ability to use his godly tile to extract the faith energy in the future. Once the evil god set a certain goal, he would do everything in his power to achieve it. He understood that Zen did not like him to gather faith energy, so he dissolved his secret sect immediately and disbanded his evil cloud sacred place at the same time. But with the help of his core subordinates in the sacred place, he rearranged the faith totems on several continents in the world. However, these totems weren't of his own image, but Zen's. At the same time, he spread all sorts of legends about the god of creation. His plan went on without a hitch. After all, legends regarding the god of creation and the venerable creator had already been circulating around this world since the ancient times. In fact, when he had first started gathering faith energy, he had already encountered a considerable amount of resistance. It was expected, however, as the people in this world had always worshipped Zen as their god of creation. Before, the evil god had had to erase the legends regarding Zen in order to gather faith energy. At one point, he even had to massacre almost a third of humanity. At present, Zen had no need for this faith energy. However, once he condensed a godly tile in the future, faith energy would be crucial in the process of forming his momentum. When Zen came out of his inner world, the wound caused by the stone mouse had almost healed. "I don't know how powerful that poison is, but it's a pity that you killed this stone mouse," Zen heard Master Evil sigh. "Why?" Zen rolled his eyes. "If I didn't poison this mouse to death, I would have been long dead. Besides, wasn't your body also destroyed by this mouse? You should have a grudge against this little thing. But you don't know how precious this stone mouse is," Master Evil said. Back then, a true god had relied on this stone mouse to become a holy being. 7 divine eras ago, in order to obtain this stone mouse, I gambled my entire fortune. I believed I was right to make that decision, but who would have thought that the stone mouse would hatch in advance and I would miss the opportunity to form a contract with it. A one-of-a-kind true spirit truly would never lose its memory. The stone mouse had assisted a holy being of remote ages in earning his title. Later on, when the holy being perished, the stone mouse died as well. However, the mouse didn't really perish. After it was reincarnated, it turned into a strange stone in the shape of a mouse. Then, it once again formed a contract with another martial artist, and although that marital artist didn't become a holy being, he was able to become a true god and reach the consummate level of a true god. Having a contract with the stone mouse was comparable to getting the key to a treasure trove. "Yes, it is indeed a pity," Zen said with a shrug of his shoulders. "I've been blabbering about how special this mouse is to you, and you're still going to leave it there. Isn't this mouse dead already? What else could it possibly be used for?" Zen asked curiously. As Master Evil said, the theurgy of the mouse was not in its own abilities, but in its memories that it had inherited as a one-of-a-kind true spirit. What was the use of a dead stone mouse? "You still know so little about the divine land," Master Evil said helplessly. Even if the stone mouse is only a corpse, you will find countless true gods who will fight for it. Even the wealthy clans in the floating islands won't back down from getting it. Why? Zen asked again. Because, through the corpse of the stone mouse, you could be able to find the place where it reincarnates and dig out that strange mouse-shaped stone. Even if you only use it as an exchange for something, the value of this mouse's corpse is beyond your imagination. Master Evil patiently explained. Zen nodded, finally getting the point. The stone mouse held incredible value, and even if he had no use of its memories, he'd still be able to exchange it for something else. With this in mind, Zen walked towards the mouse's corpse, plucked it from the ground, and put it away. Chapter 1755, Divine Might Coin. Now that he had fallen into such a predicament, Master Evil no longer thought of the stone mouse and was only focused on helping Zen. After instructing the young man to put away the mouse's corpse, he then led him away and guided him through the narrow cave. When they finally got out, Zen found himself by a mountain stream 100 miles away from the misty mountain village. The path they had taken originally connected to the hollow area below the village. In the past, Master Evil had used a special method to dig countless branch paths, forming an inescapable underground maze. A few villagers had mistakenly entered the cave and inevitably got trapped in the maze. This was confirmed by Zen when he saw several sets of bones that most probably belonged to the villagers who had unfortunately lost their way. After crossing the mountain stream, Zen managed to return to the misty mountain village where the Sun Moon village's chief and warriors remained waiting in silence. They knew something was wrong when they saw the state of the misty mountain village. None of the Sun Moon village warriors dared to step into the bottomless pit in front of them. However, none of them also dared to leave without seeing Master Evil first, so they could only stand and wait. It was only half a day later that they finally saw Zen walk towards them. "You, sir, where have you been? Did you see Master Evil?" the Sun Moon village chief asked. With Master Evil's return, the possibility of reviving the 72 villages was now at hand. If that happened, then the Sun Moon village chief would definitely be recognized. Of course he would be worried about Master Evil's condition. Master Evil, Zen scratched his head. "I almost fell to my death and walked out of the cave in a daze. I'm not really sure where he is now either." "You're not sure?" The Sun Moon village chief and his warriors could only look at each other in dismay. The glaring confusion on Zen's face meant he was obviously not pretending, so it was no use questioning him anymore. All they could do now was to go down into the pit and find their master themselves. A sigh came to Zen's mind. Master Evil had returned to the vast sky region in order to revive the 72 villages. He couldn't bear seeing the Sun Moon village reduced to the state it was in now. Unfortunately, he had lost all power and ability to ever set out what he intended to do. He could only let Zen deal with them and let them fend for themselves. The villagers of the Misty Mountain village also returned and were stricken with grief upon seeing how their home had turned out. It was fortunate that they were able to evacuate quickly. If they were too slow in leaving, then they would have died under the collapse. Now that the Sun Moon village could no longer cause trouble for them, the divine citizens could only build new houses on the other hillside. The vegetable field they cultivated fortunately survived. So long as they were alive, then the Misty Mountain village could always be rebuilt. Meanwhile, now that Zen's cinnabar field had been unsealed, there was no need for him to stay. Zen's arrival at the Misty Mountain village helped Thompson's understanding of martial arts improve by leaps and bounds. However, because there wasn't enough time, he did not manage to make any breakthroughs in his cultivation. Since Zen was obviously way stronger than Wooly, Thompson was very reluctant to let him leave, but he also understood that it would be impossible for him to follow Zen with his current strength. All he could really do was to secretly cheer himself up and work hard in becoming a future-proving godly warrior. Once that happened, he would definitely leave his village and go find his master, Thad. Half a month later, within an enormous, nameless mountain north of the vast sky region, Zen stood in front of a protruding wall halfway up the mountain, looking at the snowy plain in the distance. The vast sky region was small, but it was still bigger than what Zen imagined. The most terrifying thing about it was that warriors here were forbidden to fly, much less use the grand teleportation. With just his walking speed, it would probably take him more than 1,000 years to cross the entire vast sky region. "How far is it?" Zen asked. "Soon, on this mountain peak," Master Evil replied. In the depths of these mountains were various treasures that Master Evil had hidden in the past. Zen was now in search of these treasures. Gah, gah, there was a loud caw as dozens of unique-looking firebirds immediately pounced upon Zen. He raised his head and there was a sharp glint that flashed in his eyes. Gah, the firebirds let out a series of blood-curdling screeches as they fell one by one. Zen was able to easily kill these vicious beasts using soul pressure. It was the easiest and quickest way to do so. Tisk, you're only a world lord and your soul is already this strong. Just how powerful would you be once you manage to condense a godly tile in the future? Master Evil couldn't help but ask in Zen's mind. Zen chose not to reply. Master Evil was already aware of his secrets, including the fact that he was Mike's son and he had enmity with Murphy, but he wasn't about to spill all his secrets to Master Evil anytime soon. All of a sudden, Zen jumped up 60 to 70 feet in the air. He grabbed hold of a rock on the mountain wall and hauled himself up to the next platform. Zen would climb for 2 days before he eventually reached the peak of the mountain. Do you see that triangular rock? Master Evil asked. Zen looked up and indeed saw a tall, triangular rock that looked like a mini pyramid on top of the mountain. Using a method taught by Master Evil, Zen approached the rock and pressed it down. Zen laughed. It can't be that someone had already dug out the treasures, right? 4 days ago, Zen had also dug up treasures on another big mountain under Master Evil's guidance. Unfortunately, it seemed someone else had already beaten them to it. This was understandable given that 7 divine eras had already passed. Someone was bound to find them. I don't think so. Honestly speaking though, Master Evil couldn't really be too sure. Just as he said this, the triangular rock sank and a small hole appeared in front of Zen. Within the hole were many black discs. Zen picked one of the discs and carefully looked at it. These discs were rough and contained some kind of special power within them. Zen couldn't comprehend what specific power it was nor what use it had. What is this thing? Are they magic treasures or some kinds of rare materials? Neither, Master Evil answered. This is the Divine Land's current currency, the Divine Might Coin. Divine Might Coin? Zen couldn't help but roll his eyes. There's only a few hundred of them. But you've made me travel across mountains and rivers for half a month just for this. Zen had previously planned to head directly to Mirror City, which was located in the north of the vast sky region. However, Master Evil had convinced him to search for his hidden treasures with the argument that it would be difficult for Zen to travel through the vast sky region without them. Don't underestimate the Divine Might Coins. Some true god's entire wealth can only be worth up to a few hundred Divine Might Coins, Master Evil told him with a chuckle. If you don't have any Divine Might Coins, it would be extremely difficult for you to leave the vast sky region. Heck, it would be extremely difficult to even walk a single inch in the Divine Land. Hearing this, Zen turned the Divine Might Coins in his hand. The universe's currency was the Life Vitality Crystal or Life Vitality Jade. They also served as consumables condensed from vitality between heaven and earth that warriors could directly use to replenish life vitality within their cinnabar field. These Divine Might Coins were currency used between true gods who didn't need to consume life vitality but instead relied on the faith energy within their inner world. If they operated on the same kind of logic as life vitality crystals, then that could only mean one thing. Is the Divine Might Coin able to replenish the life vitality? Or can it replenish the faith energy? Zen asked. However, Master Evil shook his head. No, it can't. Then what's the use of the Divine Might Coins? Zen asked once again. It had to have some kind of special, attractive quality for the true gods to value it, otherwise, it was nothing but a pile of trash. Master Evil laughed. The use of the Divine Might Coin is too great. Every year, those wealthy clans on the floating islands in the Time Sea would fight over it. It can be said that possessing Divine Might Coins is equal to owning everything in the Divine Land. You will know what exactly these coins are used for in the future. Even if I tell you now, it would simply be useless. Just wait. Possessing the Divine Might Coins means possessing everything in the Divine Land. Zen couldn't help but repeat Master Evil's words. Wasn't the old man exaggerating? In the universe, only low-level warriors risked their lives obtaining life vitality crystals and life vitality jades. Higher-level warriors need not bother since they didn't need to replenish their life vitality while fighting. Even before they had used up their life vitality, the winner was already decided, so the World Lords and Supreme Lords only needed to take hundreds of life vitality jades with them. Thus when high-leveled warriors bartered, they usually used objects, weapons, or treasures. This black disc in Zen's hand couldn't be eaten or consumed, so how could it be used as currency? Unfortunately, Master Evil wasn't willing to tell him, so he could only give up in the end. Chapter 1756, Mirror City. After collecting the Divine Might Coins, Zen quickly headed north, still under Master Evil's guidance. As soon as he entered the Divine Land, Zen tried to get an overview of the place. It had been quite difficult to gain any insight back when he was still in the Misty Mountain village, since its inhabitants weren't well traveled and the farthest they'd ever been to was Mirror City. Master Evil had been locked up in the dungeon for 7 divine eras, so his information was mostly outdated. Fortunately, his knowledge and experience were still quite comprehensive. I just don't understand why a top figure like Harold won't directly pick you up. In Master Evil's eyes, Zen was a proud son of a holy being. His lineage and talent were enough to directly send him to the wealthy and influential clans on the floating islands. Even if the floating island built by Mike had been destroyed, with Harold's connections, it would not be difficult for him to send Zen to the floating islands. Zen also knew his father's disciples still played an active role. At the very least, they took very good care of Yan. However, due to Win's arrangement, Zen could only adapt to the situation and rely on himself. I think your first aim is to enter a wealthy and influential clan on a certain floating island. Master Evil advised. The floating island was a place everyone in the divine land yearned for. A warrior such as Master Evil simply did not have the qualifications to enter such a place. Floating island, what kind of place is it exactly? Zen had heard Win mention it back in the evolutionary universe, but he didn't really elaborate much on it. Master Evil sighed. Zen was Mike's son and Bromley's disciple, but it was amazing just how little Zen knew about the divine land. In the middle of the divine land is a vast sea called the Time Sea. The sea is formed by light and time, and any living being who falls onto this sea will be split by different time. I once walked by the sea. It is extremely dangerous. In the center of the Time Sea are the floating islands built and constructed by powerful, wealthy clans. These floating islands are naturally built by holy beings of the divine land. Only holy beings have the qualifications to establish a floating island, so each floating island represents a peak level power of the divine land. The wealthy clans that live on the floating islands have monopolized around 90% of the resources in the divine land. These include those divine mighty coins. Once you enter a floating island, you will have a promising future. However, it's going to be difficult as you will have to gain the recognition of some powerful clan. It is quite rare for them to accept warriors from other clans. Not even I was qualified to enter a floating island back then. You weren't qualified? Zen asked in surprise. Which wealthy clan would accept a true god like me with no sort of powerful background? Master Evil couldn't help but reveal a look of cynicism. Even if he hadn't received the favor of any wealthy clan, he still managed to reach the peak level of a mid-rank true god. That was still something worth being proud of. Enter a floating island. As they conversed, Zen climbed and eventually made it to the top of the mountain. On the peak, he could see the outline of the divine land much more clearly. Now he already got an initial goal. A cold wind blew into Zen's nose. He smiled before jumping down and floating with the wind. His traveling speed wasn't too slow, but it was still a bummer that he couldn't fly. 2.5 months later, Zen slowly found himself arriving north of the vast sky region. He had finally arrived at the first divine city, Mirror City. This divine city is so beautiful, he couldn't help but remark. When Zen was still 100 miles away from Mirror City, he had already caught a glimpse of the entire city. As its name implied, the walls of Mirror City were made of a type of polished, silver brick that shone like huge mirror. He didn't need Master Evil to explain anything further as he could see everything with his eyes. When Zen arrived at the gates, he was greeted by the sight of a black mass of warriors in front of him. There were about more than 10,000 warriors, most of them at the Spirit Transformation Realm. There were also a few Spirit Supreme Realm warriors and proving godly warriors. Right now, it seemed all of them were blocked from entering Mirror City. Be quiet, come here and register the points you have obtained today. In front of the city gates were 10, black-armored proving godly warriors. Each of them held long whips in their hands as they shouted over the crowd. The warriors present immediately clamored and surged towards one direction. What are they doing? Zen asked with his mouth wide open, his eyes filled with confusion. Do you think it is that easy to enter a divine city? Master Evil chuckled. Not everyone can have that privilege. Improving one's cultivation wasn't that difficult here in the divine land. Divine citizens could open up their soul sea just after they started practicing martial arts and directly become soul sea realm warriors. Even someone like Wooly in the Misty Mountain village was able to enter the Spirit Transformation realm despite having average talent. The entire Misty Mountain village had banded together in order to send him to Mirror City. Unfortunately, it was quite difficult for Wooly to master any high-level martial skill in the city since he didn't even have any basic understanding of swordsmanship. There were so many divine citizens in the divine land. The majority of them would often find themselves stuck at the Soul Sea realm, Spirit Supreme realm, or Spirit Transformation realm. Those who were determined to step into the godly way would go out and find masters from whom they could study. Only a few people would be lucky enough to find and learn from powerful masters, so the vast majority of warriors opted to go to divine cities instead, where there were more opportunities. However, a divine city's holding capacity was limited. If it opened its gates to everyone, then it would be engulfed by a tidal wave of divine citizens. Such things had already happened before. Having learned from their mistakes, the divine cities chose to set limitations for those who wanted to enter their walls. The standard rule for most divine cities is to pay a divine might coin to gain entry, Master Evil explained. Zen pursed his lips. It's merely one divine might coin. That's not too much. He had hundreds of divine might coins courtesy of Master Evil. Entering the divine city wasn't going to be that difficult for him then. Hee, do you think it's easy to obtain a divine might coin? Take a look at these warriors. They all need to continuously complete the missions issued to them by the Mirror City. The weaker ones will have to work for tens, maybe even hundreds of years before they gain the qualifications needed to enter the city. All for one divine might coin. Master Evil explained. 100 years of hard work in exchange for a divine might coin. This fact shocked Zen greatly. Now that he finally realized the value of the divine might coins, he suddenly felt as if those small, black, round pieces he carried got heavier. A crack suddenly appeared on the city gate. Out came a middle-aged man wearing a fancy robe. A true god. Zen's eyes narrowed upon realization that this middle-aged man was a low-rank true god. He pointed at a proving godly warrior in the crowd who visibly became very excited and began bowing to him. Afterwards, the chosen proving godly warrior followed the middle-aged man inside the Mirror City. Bam! The gates closed with a bang, and all of those who were left behind wore expressions of unbridled envy on their faces. What's going on? Zen asked curiously. Those who have a house in the Mirror City can bring 3 people inside. That middle-aged true god must be a native, and the proving godly warrior he brought in with him must be his relative, Master Evil answered. That's allowed. Zen was quite dumbfounded with the amount of information he had suddenly been given. Back then, I also had about 7 houses in the Mirror City. Ah, but it's a pity. After so many years, they most probably belong to other people now, Master Evil muttered in a wistful tone. Anyway, let's drop the subject. We should hurry and enter the city as soon as possible. Since Zen had divine might coins, he naturally didn't need to work like the other warriors. Once he bypassed this group, Zen managed to squeeze his way to the front of the city gates. A guard noticed him and pointed a whip to the side. Don't you know the rule? Line up over there to receive your task. The blatant rudeness did not anger Zen. In fact, he was smiling. I'm not here to do any task. Shouldn't one be able to enter by paying a divine might coin? Chapter 1757. The Han clan's ancestral land. It was common knowledge that divine might coins were extremely rare in the divine land. Not even a true god had many of those coins, let alone those warriors who busied themselves outside the city their whole lives. They had to accumulate enough points to enter the city and exchange their divine might coins, which would eventually end up in someone else's hand. That was why when a guard of the Mirror City heard that a proving godly warrior say that he had a divine might coin, he prompted, "You have a divine might coin." Zen nodded his head and took out a divine might coin. The Mirror City guard's eyes lit up at the sight of the round, black piece in Zen's hand. With a wave of his hand, the divine might coin in Zen's grasp was taken away from him. The other Mirror City guards who stood next to the first guard looked at Zen as well and scanned him from head to toe. If a proving godly warrior like Zen possessed a divine might coin, it must either be a gift from a true god or he simply got really lucky and found a treasure some true gods might have left behind. If it was the former, then it didn't matter. But if it was the latter, then this kid probably had more than one divine might coin. A few moments passed and the Mirror City guard continued to examine Zen's coin. Can I go in now? Zen asked. The guard inspected the small round piece one more time before he looked at Zen with a smile. Not yet, he said. Why? Zen asked again. He was confused. He had already presented the coin, what more could they ask? The guard laughed and said, I'm sorry, but 2 divine might coins are required. 1 is not enough to enter the Mirror City. Many true gods most likely lived in the Mirror City. Although the guards in front of Zen were probably just proving godly warriors, he did not wish to stir up trouble. Thus, he did his best to be amiable despite the guard's display of arrogance. However, this Mirror City guard obviously tried to rip him off. Zen raised one brow and said, they say that you only need to pay 1 divine might coin to enter the city. The guard shook his head. Today, the price has risen. You need to pay 2 coins to enter the city, if you pay 1 less. He pointed to the crowd of warriors at the side. You'll have to take on missions like them to save up enough points for you to enter the city. It wasn't easy to become a mirror city guard. The guards at the city gate had many connections to some important figures in the divine city. Even if Zen only had one divine might coin, they still wouldn't let go of the opportunity to take his coin for themselves. If Zen presented 2 divine might coins, it would certainly make the guards happier. They'd seen too many people like Zen, who looked plain and even dubious. It was usually easy to handle people like him, as with just a few words, those warriors would go away. What could a proving godly warrior do at the gates of a divine city? Of course, Zen would not take out a second divine might coin. His face turned cold as he said, "I don't have time to accept missions." "Then come back when you have earned the second divine might coin," the guard said mockingly as he gently juggled the divine might coin in his hand. When the coin was up in the air, Zen's eyes suddenly glowed with a golden light. Since Master Evil had warned him not to stir up any trouble in the Mirror City, he had restrained his soul and concealed all of its sharpness. However, the people in the Divine Land were just as nasty as those in the universe, if not worse. Nice people were always oppressed. The small golden swords in Zen's soul flashed while an extremely sharp soul suppression erupted. Then, the invisible arrows flew past the Mirror City guard's soul. The guards at the gates were only world lords. In addition, there was a great difference in strength between the martial artists of the same level in the Divine Land and those in the universe. For example, Wooly, who was a spirit transformation realm martial artist, had a high cultivation base but a terrifying lack of understanding of martial arts. The world lords were the same as well. Most of the divine citizens who managed to become proving godly warriors didn't even know how to practice the godly way. Very few world lords among them had successfully trained their souls to Jasper fighting souls, and even fewer had gone for silver fighting souls and gold fighting souls. Although Zen's soul was still a gold fighting soul, his soul pressure wasn't weaker than a true god's because of the evolutionary divine arts he had been cultivating. The small arrows that were formed from the soul pressure flew out, but did not harm the guard's soul. However, the pressure contained inside the arrows caused a chill to run down the guard's spine, and his entire body from bones to muscles had become completely stiff. Puff, puff, the sharp invisible arrows finally hit the city gate behind him and left 2 small scratches on the gate's tough surface. Even though Zen tried his best to prevent his soul pressure from spreading out, the row of Mirror City guards still felt afraid of the terrifying golden light that flashed through Zen's eyes. They even froze in place. Meanwhile, the divine might coin still spun in the air and eventually fell. Zen's right hand stretched out at lightning speed and caught the coin. He then waved it in front of the guard. "Put it away," he said in an aloof voice. He stuffed the coin into the guard's pocket, and then passed through the rest of them and entered the gates without looking back. The guards at the scene finally regained their senses when the door slammed shut. They looked at each other, but did not say a word. There were very few talents suddenly appearing in the Divine Land, much different from the universe. A successful talent usually came from a powerful background and had a backer behind them. From a warrior's potential and talent, one could even judge where they came from. A small mountain village, born in an ordinary divine city. Or, did someone train them in a central divine city? Those successful talents could also come from the 4 divine trees or some wealthy clan from a floating island. There were subtle differences between those warriors, and it was quite easy for people with a good eye to tell them apart. The Mirror City guards did not have a vision, but it didn't mean that they were stupid. At the very least, they had the ability to discern what was going on. They couldn't fathom the soul level Zen had displayed at all. The central divine cities couldn't have been able to nurture such a strong warrior, so they surmised that Zen must be at least from the 4 divine trees, or even a floating island. Thus, let alone a mere guard, even ordinary true gods wouldn't dare to provoke someone like Zen. The Mirror City guard touched the divine might coin in his pocket and gulped. In the end, he did not utter a single word. As for Zen, he had controlled himself well. He warned the guards but didn't cause any trouble. At the very least, he didn't catch the attention of the true gods in the Mirror City. After all, Zen's current identity was a delicate matter. After he had entered the Mirror City, the aura in his whole body completely disappeared like melted snow on a bright, sunny day. Although the Mirror City was one of the 7 divine cities in the vast sky region, it wasn't as big as Zen had imagined. So, he asked Master Evil why the divine city wasn't built much larger. "Why does it have to be big?" Master Evil asked in return. While it could be said that some holy cities in the universe were almost boundless, the divine cities were built for a different purpose. In order to expand, the 10th grade sacred places in the universe continued to absorb talents, and produced even more world lords who would eventually fight each other to become a supreme lord. Furthermore, the divine land had been in development for countless divine eras, so it was very much stable. It wasn't that there were no talents in the divine land, but they were just too few to be taken into account. Thus, the different powers weren't so eager to expand their influence. In any case, those rich clans on the floating islands changed their rankings only every few years. Besides, it was difficult for a true god from those clans to reach the consummation of true god level, and even harder for them to become a holy being. That was also the reason that the distribution of resources was directed towards the great powers. The competition among the martial artists at the bottom level was even more brutal. Zen wasted no time in following Master Evil's instructions and rushed to the west side of Mirror City. It was the only place where he could use the teleportation channel to travel across the vast sky region. The vast sky region is just really a small region with a total of 3 powers stationed in the place. Those 3 major powers control all the divine cities within the region, but those who know better are aware that those powers are nothing more than puppets of the Han clan. You can use the teleportation channel to head to the 6 Burden region to the south of the vast sky region, which is the Han clan's ancestral land, said Master Evil. The Han clan, ancestral land? Zen was slightly surprised. Master Evil nodded and continued, that's right. The Holy Emperor of the Han clan became a holy being 130 divine eras ago. The current Han clan is also one of the wealthiest clans on the floating islands. During the past divine eras of my absence, its power has probably increased still more. Since the 6 Burden region is the Han clan's ancestral land, it is the place where you can go to find a chance. Chapter 1758, Changing Appearance. After hearing Master Evil's introduction, Zen's thoughts floated back to the divine refinement forbidden land. He thought about Laquisha and Elena. At the time, the 2 sisters were a big headache to Zen. Since Han clan's holy emperor is a holy being, what's his relationship with Murphy? Zen asked. With wide eyes, Master Evil shook his head. I don't know about that. His influence only reached within the vast sky region. Even within the region, he wasn't a peak existence, he had never even been to those floating islands, so how could he have known about the relationships between the top-level characters in the divine land? But, it doesn't matter, does it? Master Evil asked helplessly. I've been to the divine refinement forbidden land and have met some of the Han clan's members. If I were to rush in, I'm afraid they would recognize me, Zen explained. What Zen needed to pay attention to wasn't only the 2 sisters of the Han clan, but also the personal guards of the 2 girls, including Kennen. If the Han clan had a good relationship with the Mu clan and if Zen was recognized, such things would get troublesome. Although Zen knew that since there were hundreds of thousands of proving godly warriors, it was unlikely that the Han clan would take notice of Zen, he understood that everything had to be done with caution. In the divine land, Zen had no way out. It's no problem if you don't want to go to the 6 Burden region, said Master Evil, but the 36 smaller regions around it are all under Han clan's control, so merely leaving this small region isn't an easy task for you. The wealthy clans of the floating islands all had their own areas within the divine land, and the vast sky region was also a part of the Han clan. Now Zen was unable to use grand teleportation, and his teleportation token was rendered useless. What was worse, he couldn't even fly. All he could do was use Han clan's long-distance teleportation channels, but teleportation was quite expensive even for a true god, even more so for the current Zen. Even the hundreds of divine might coins Zen got from Master Evil weren't enough to send Zen out. Zen fell into deep thought. It was just as Master Evil had said, divine might coins were too important, but Zen did not have the ability to earn divine might coins himself yet. Suddenly, Zen remembered that he had the soul-searching flag that Marco, Murphy's disciple, left behind. He had brought it into the divine land. I have some treasure, Marco's soul-searching flag. Is it worth any divine might coins? But Master Evil rejected the suggestion. The soul-searching flag? Haha, that's valuable indeed. It was Murphy's treasure. Even though he's given up on using it, it's still very famous. If you use it, you might be discovered soon. That will be even more dangerous. Zen was stuck in a dilemma. In my opinion, you're only really afraid that the Han clan will recognize you. Though they have so many disciples, only a few of them have seen you in the divine refinement forbidden land, so the probability of you being recognized is pretty low. I can teach you a skill that can change your appearance. I'm sure even your father will not be able to recognize you in person. Master Evil laughed again. Clearly, that was a bit of an exaggeration. For some powerful warriors, once they locked onto the opponent's aura, they could recognize him even if his body was burned to ashes. But in the divine refinement forbidden land, the ones with the highest cultivation level were merely world lords, and they didn't have such means. Zen was happy to accept Master Evil's offer. While Master Evil advised Zen in his mind, the latter walked west along the main road of the Mirror City. After walking a short distance, a golden light flashed across Zen's eyes. Just then, Master Evil said, "Someone is following you." "I know, it's a true god," Zen replied calmly in his mind. 1,000 feet behind him, a middle-aged man clad in a gray robe followed Zen at a steady pace. Because he had just arrived at the Divine Land, it was impossible for Murphy to find him so early. This person was clearly following him because the guardians of the Mirror City had reported something to their leaders. But it doesn't matter. A mere low-rank true god wouldn't dare openly attack people in Mirror City, Master Evil sneered. The entire Divine Land followed a strict hierarchy, even holy beings were governed by the rules of the stone slab. The central divine cities and the other divine cities of various regions also had their own rules. No matter how much someone fought outside of the divine cities and killed people for their goods, normally, no one would even care about it. But the rules within the divine cities were extremely strict. Back then, Master Evil occupied almost a third of the northern part of the vast sky region, so the Han clan was naturally aware of it. But they did not send anyone to deal with him. Even Master Evil was also very familiar with these rules. Every time he entered Mirror City, he would make sure to behave himself and avoid causing any trouble. On the west side of Mirror City was a giant square with a grayish-brown stone wall erected on it. The stone wall seemed out of place among the surrounding buildings of Mirror City. On the stone wall stood several gates 10 feet wide. These were the Mirror City's teleportation channels. "There doesn't seem to be anyone using these teleportation channels," Zen said curiously. The total of 9 gates on the stone wall indicated that there were 9 teleportation channels. But the entire square was empty save for a few black armored guards standing in front of the stone wall, all wearing bored expressions on their faces. Master Evil smiled faintly. "Nonsense. It's not easy to construct a teleportation channel in the Divine Land, and teleporting is extremely expensive as well. It would cost at least 100 divine might coins to teleport from the vast sky region to the 6 burden region. It would be difficult even for ordinary low-rank true gods to afford it." "Then if a true god wants to go to the 6 burden region, what should they do?" Zen asked. "It's not like the different regions are truly separated from each other. They can just go on foot. It might take 300 or 400 years, though," Master Evil laughed. His response left Zen stunned. Such a thing wasn't uncommon in the universe. For instance, it wasn't easy for someone of the Soul Sea realm to cross a supreme world. If Zen didn't have a teleportation token, it would have been very difficult for him to travel between supreme worlds. But he didn't expect that after becoming a true god, one would have to face such a seemingly mundane problem. The universe's space channels were extremely cheap, but a single teleportation in the Divine Land could actually consume all the wealth of a true god. At this moment, Zen finally understood the importance of the divine might coins. If it weren't for the few hundred divine might coins Master Evil gave him, he wouldn't even be able to enter Mirror City, let alone use the teleportation channels. The middle-aged man following Zen frowned when he saw Zen walk towards the square. He had just received news from his nephew, who happened to be a Mirror City guard. An extremely powerful proving godly warrior with a powerful soul had just entered the city. Although this person was only a proving godly warrior, he seemed to be rather wealthy. Though Zen didn't reveal his wealth, a proving godly warrior who could casually take out a divine might coin to enter the city was considered a rarity. So the true god targeted Zen immediately, planning to rob him after leaving the city. The middle-aged man understood that it was highly likely that Zen had come from a powerful force, but as the saying went, men die in pursuit of wealth and birds die in pursuit of food. He didn't let himself overthink it. But never did he expect Zen to head straight for the teleportation channels. The middle-aged man was also a native true god of the vast sky region. He had fought for 3 divine eras in Mirror City before finally taking root and buying a house there. But in total, it was only worth 80 divine might coins, making up his entire wealth. However, it seemed that Zen might be able to easily take out 100 divine might coins to use the teleportation channel. This brat was only a proving godly warrior. The middle-aged man suddenly felt an ache in his heart. It would be good if he had intercepted Zen before he entered the city. Seeing that Zen was about to leave through the teleportation channel, the middle-aged man gritted his teeth and quickly stepped in front of Zen. In a low voice, he said, "Friend, why have you come to our Mirror City?" Zen had discovered the person long ago, and there wasn't the slightest trace of panic on his face. Although this was his first time entering the Divine Land, he knew humans' hearts and minds were about the same. Zen shot a glance at the middle-aged man. "Is this Mirror City yours?" His question put an awkward expression on the middle-aged man's face. After concealing his embarrassment, he said, "The divine city does not belong to one person." "Then to whom does this city belong?" Zen asked once again. "Mirror City belongs to the Qian clan of the vast sky region. Strictly speaking, the Qian clan is controlled by the Han clan, making Mirror City belong to the latter." In all seriousness, the man explained. "I see, thank you. Goodbye, now." Zen laughed and turned to leave. For a moment, the man was stunned silent before he realized that he had been tricked. He was there to rob the brat, not to talk about the city, and his expression turned dark. "Although I do not know where you came from, if you want to leave Mirror City safely, I'm afraid you will need to leave something behind." Chapter 1759, Ruling Slate. As Master Evil had said, the rules of a divine city were very strict. As such, most of the people there would always follow such regulations. Even top-rank true gods wouldn't dare to act rashly in the city, let alone a mere low-rank true god. Zen had heard a lot of threats in his life. However, this was probably the lamest one he had ever heard. He even suspected about how this person became a true god with such stupid brain. What Zen didn't know was that it wasn't difficult to become a true god in the divine land. The achievement of such a title was rather easier than he had imagined. Moreover, the strength of true gods varied greatly. For example, Marco and Matteo were low-rank true gods, but they were Murphy's disciples. Their techniques and abilities were still above ordinary true gods. Even if they encountered some ordinary true god, they would be able to kill their opponent in the blink of an eye. Blade was also a low-rank true god. However, he was comparatively much stronger than Marco, Matteo, Win, and some others. That was also the reason why Master Evil suggested Zen join a wealthy clan on some floating island first. Zen could rapidly increase his strength if he became a disciple of a holy being. Under a holy being's tutelage, Zen's comprehension and abilities would significantly improve. "Leave what behind?" Zen asked in confusion. The middle-aged man laughed coldly. With an arrogant tone, he replied, "Of course I meant your divine might coins." As he heard the middle-aged man's demand, Zen carelessly took out several divine might coins. With a callous look at his face, he held the coins in his hand. Then, he asked in an aloof tone, "Are you talking about these?" As the middle-aged man saw the divine might coins in Zen's hand, his eyes suddenly lit up with greed. A look similar to a hungry dog painted the middle-aged man's face. He immediately nodded, "Yes, yes. That's it." As he said that, the middle-aged man quickly reached out to grab the divine might coins. "In your dreams." With a flip of his hand, Zen immediately put away the divine might coins as if by magic. "You imbecile, you are courting death." After he was toyed with twice by Zen, the true god was finally angered from embarrassment. An intense expression was seen in his face. Snowflakes appeared in his eyes as an icy aura surged out from his body. The middle-aged man was a true god that cultivated the snow godly way. Nonetheless, Zen had already seen such cultivation in the corridor of Emperor in the illusion battlefield. Generally, a true god that came from a universe was far more powerful than an ordinary true god in the divine land. The aura released by the man was indeed sharp, but Zen's state of mind was not affected at all. As such, he also quickly retreated. "Master Evil, didn't you say that it is forbidden to fight in the Mirror City?" Zen asked curiously as he watched the middle-aged man make his move. Master Evil was also speechless. "You're the one that agitated this idiot. Nonetheless, he will also pay for his misdemeanor." The commotion had also alarmed the guards of the teleportation channels. The guards were also astonished. They looked at the true god as if they saw a fool. A displeased thought passed by their heads. What kind of idiot dared to create trouble in the divine city? At the same time, a blue light shot out from the center of Mirror City. Along with that, a stone slab slowly rose up from the ground and then flew rapidly to the west of the Mirror City. After the stone slab appeared, it also attracted the attention of countless martial artists in the Mirror City. Since they already knew what the stone slab symbolized, many of the martial artists had displeased expression as they saw the stone slab. Which idiot is fighting in the Mirror City again? Does that fool really think that the rules set by the Qian clan are just for show? Isn't this courting death? Why is it heading towards the west side of the city? What is happening there? Because they feared the punishment of this stone slab, all of the martial artists in the Mirror City were careful. They didn't even dare to use life vitality to send voice messages. Fights wouldn't normally happen since the warriors wouldn't even activate their life vitality, much less condense the momentum within their bodies with their godly tiles. Normally, when they cultivated or learned martial arts from their masters, they would go to a designated area in the city. If they weren't careful enough, they would receive the punishment from the stone slab. A furious expression painted the true god that faced Zen. The true god then condensed the momentum in his body. However, before he could do anything, a flash of blue light shone from the horizon. Suddenly, from the blue light arose the stone slab, which flew towards the true god with intense precision and high speed. Panic immediately enveloped him as he was scared out of his wits. With a bitter face, he said, I didn't want to do anything. Unfortunately, the stone slab was not a human and did not listen to the true god's explanation. It continued its advance toward its target. From the surface of the stone slab, small dots of lightning were emitted. The small dots quickly condensed and formed a thick bolt of lightning that shot towards the true god. Boom! Although the lightning looked very ordinary, the power contained within it was almost unparalleled. The destructive capabilities of the released lightning would terrify most martial artists. The lightning struck the true god's body and the lightning fragments continued to move around his body. The true god let out a miserable scream as he frantically rolled on the ground. After a while, the true god lost consciousness and lay pathetically on the ground. Zen felt a bit of life energy in the true god. He knew that the middle-aged man was still alive. Nonetheless, Zen still felt cautious of the stone slab. If it was him who had been struck by the lightning, even if he did not die, he would at least lose half his life. That stone slab. Zen raised his head to look at the stone slab in the sky. Curiosity filled his eyes. Win had once mentioned to Zen that there was a stone slab in the divine land that even holy beings would be restrained by it. Murphy had previously attacked the evolutionary universe, so he was punished by the stone slab. Zen would not doubt that the palm-sized stone slab in front of him was able to restrain a true god, but it was hard to believe that even holy beings would be afraid of the stone slab in front of him. A sense of doubt shone across his expression. This is not a 10,000 commandments slate, Master Evil reminded as he noticed Zen's doubtful look. It's just a 10 commandments slate. 10 commandments slate? Zen asked curiously, is there more than one of such slates? Master Evil chuckled. He looked at Zen rather boastfully. How else do you think these divine cities were formed? After the godly way tablets landed on the divine land, countless stone slabs had appeared all over the divine land. Their sizes varied greatly. The small ones were known as the 10 commandments slates while the big ones were called 100 commandments slates. Furthermore, the more enormous ones were the 1,000 commandments slates. The people in the divine land discovered the usage of the slates rather quickly. Rules could be set on the slates. The rules were unbreakable and must be followed by everyone in the covered area of the slate. If the rules were violated, the offender would be instantly punished by the slate. From the moment the slates appeared, not a single one had been destroyed. Even holy beings would not be able to damage even the weakest 10 commandments slates. All the divine cities in the divine land were built around these slates. As such, the area of a divine city was relative to the size of the slate. The vast sky region was originally small, and the mirror city was located in the north of the vast sky region. It was a relatively remote divine city with only one piece of 10 commandments slate. However, the heavenly canopy divine city in the center of the vast sky region possessed 100 commandments slate. In the center of Han Clan's ancestral land, where the six-burden divine city was located, there was 1,000 commandments slate. I see. That's very useful information. So, the one that can suppress the holy beings is the 10,000 commandments slate? Zen asked with expectant eyes. Yes, you are smart. Hehe, the 10,000 commandments slate is also known as the ruling slate. Even holy beings would become obedient to the rules of the ruling slate. It's the most powerful and largest slate. And the area a 10,000 commandments slate covers is the entire divine land, Master Evil explained with a proud look. Even though he understood Master Evil's explanation, Zen was still confused. Since these slates are so powerful, why isn't there anyone who uses them as weapons? If I carry 1,000 commandments slate on my back and lay down rules that work to my advantage, who would dare to fight me? Haha, you are indeed worthy of being the son of a holy being. You have a quick yet shrewd mind, Master Evil praised playfully. It is said that in ancient times, such things did happen. Some true gods used the slates as their own weapons and wrote some extremely shameless rules on them, such as, no one is allowed to touch me. Once someone attacked the true god, the slate would immediately attack the offender at that time. Battles between powerful true gods truly were battles between slates. As he imagined the scene of a battle between true gods who each carried a stone slab, Zen became speechless. It might be a ridiculous sight, but he had to admit that it was indeed an extremely powerful method. But later on, such a situation ended. Someone wrote a rule on the 10,000 Commandments slate, which is also the ruling slate. It is the slate that can control the entire divine land. Everyone, including holy beings, is required to follow it. If I remember correctly, it should be the 104th rule that ended that weird situation. The passage states that, no one is allowed to use the slates as a personal weapon. After this rule appeared, the true gods had no choice but to put down their slates, Master Evil said plainly. This rule is truly strange, Zen sighed. His curiosity continued to deepen. It's the only way to keep everything in order. To become stronger, everyone is doing their best to study the rules. Although the current divine land is very stable and the rules are strict, there is still a large group of people who are looking for loopholes in the rules and trying to find a chance to achieve higher levels, Master Evil continued his explanation. Zen nodded his head as he finally understood the situation. At that moment, 3 true gods in red and black armor rushed out from the side. After the slate was activated, it also alarmed some people in Mirror City. They came here to inspect what actually happened. The 3 true gods looked at the middle-aged man who was half dead on the ground and asked Zen about the situation. After they understood what had happened, the 3 true gods left peacefully. Although the rules on the slates were strict, every year, there would always be some idiots who couldn't control themselves and violated the rules. Before they left, the true gods were also a bit curious about Zen's identity. After all, among proving godly warriors, there were very few who had enough divine might coins to use the teleportation channel. Zen's incredible wealth was rather strange for them. Chapter 1760, Heavenly Han House. When Zen informed the guards which space channel he wanted to use, disbelief was written all over their faces. For the guards, a person who owned 100 divine might coins could buy themselves a house in Mirror City, take a true god as their master, and buy some land to cultivate. For a proving godly warrior, 100 divine might coins were extremely precious. The fact that Zen was willing to spend that much just to enter the space channel was horrendous. At that point, the guards thought that Zen merely came here to joke with them. However, the moment Zen took out the coins, their attitudes changed immediately. It seemed this young man truly did have money. These guards would never be able to understand. Ordinary true gods would never be able to teach Zen anything. He wasn't going to be able to find growth in Mirror City, and the 6 burden divine city was a mere detour. He had to go to the floating islands. The guards had no choice but to lead Zen towards the space channel. As the gate on the stone wall opened, Zen found himself staring at a familiar place, deep blue space that spiraled rapidly, leading to an endless abyss. He sneaked himself from the evolutionary universe to divine land by using this kind of space channel before. He stepped inside the space channel without any hesitation. He was gone in less than a minute. In the center of Mirror City was a resplendent building, on top of which stood 2 sage-like men. This tall building held a special position in Mirror City given that its owner was from the Qian clan, the main controller of the city. Looks like another rich kid of a floating island has run away from home, one of the old men lightly remarked. Very few wealthy clans are willing to let their disciples go to the wild these days. It's extremely risky with no guarantee of good results, his companion said. The nurturing of true elite disciples in the floating islands was usually done within the clans. Most of the outstanding geniuses would first be sent to the divine refinement forbidden land. They would spend quite some time there before they were directly brought back to the floating islands. Geniuses in the middle level would be directed to the ancestral lands, while those in the lower level would be sent to an ordinary divine city. However, it couldn't be avoided that some disciples had wild and untamed natures. These disciples would be sent out to wander freely, to be one with the wild. Although Zen had completely restrained his soul, the 2 elders of the Qian clan could feel his nature through their extraordinary senses. They immediately knew that Zen was not just an ordinary person, and the fact that he was willing to spend 100 divine might coins to enter a space channel had them think that he came from a wealthy clan from the floating islands. His background is suspicious. He's not from any wealthy clan. What is his purpose in heading to the 6 burden region? Do you want to notify the Han clan? He is nothing but a mere low-level proving godly warrior. Just let him be, he looks harmless enough. Besides, it's better not to meddle in other people's business. In the space channel, since they cannot exercise the use of space law in the divine land, how was the space channel built then? Zen wondered, feeling a strange sensation as his body moved in a circular motion. He was currently unable to move and simply let the channel take him to where he needed to go. Fortunately, he was still able to communicate with Master Evil in his mind. Who told you that space law can't be used? Those top-ranked true gods and holy beings are able to use space law to a certain degree. The only reason you can't use it is because your strength is too low, Master Evil said. Is it also because of the ruling slate? Zen asked, feeling a spark of inspiration. Of course, I truly don't know what those holy beings were thinking during the remote ages. They made up so many strange rules and made the divine land like this, Master Evil lamented. One of the biggest problems in the divine land was migration. Many of the true gods, unable to use the space law, had limited range of their movements. This led to the obstruction of growth of divine citizens in terms of cultivation. It's to make sure the wealthy clans from the floating islands remain on top, Zen murmured in frustration. The rules of the divine land were strict and stable, but it caused stagnation to its people. Very few geniuses appeared, so it was natural that only a few individuals were able to become holy beings. The wealthy clans, on the other hand, remained unchanged and in power. Indeed so, but there are always people trying to break through this barrier. Holy J, for example, established the divine refinement forbidden land. Hilarious. Master Evil burst out in laughter. After establishing his inner world, Holy J opened the divine refinement forbidden land to the outside world. The wealthy clans of the floating islands did not really care at first, but eventually grew concerned at the number of people it managed to attract, with most of them being from the grassroots. When those in the lowest strata of society began cultivating in the divine refinement forbidden land, they immediately reached their peak. This kind of development caused quite a stir in the divine land. The wealthy clans then fixed their eyes on the divine refinement forbidden land and sent their elite warriors there to train in secret. After hearing what Master Evil said, Zen came to realize that there was more to the story. It was no wonder that he encountered so many geniuses in the divine refinement forbidden land who came from the divine land. After 5 days of floating within the space channel, Zen was taken aback to see a sudden flash of light engulfed him. He immediately braced himself, ready to fall at any minute, learning from his experience back when he sneaked in from the evolutionary universe. However, he immediately relaxed when he realized that he was already slipping down. Whoosh! From the top of the slipway, Zen whooshed down to the bottom in a peaceful manner. Once he was at the bottom, he stood up slowly and made sure that his body was in tip-top condition. Wow, the treatment here that one person gets after spending money is quite different, Zen exclaimed from disbelief. He then turned around and discovered a huge stone wall behind him with all sorts of beautiful carvings. It was even more exquisite than the one in Mirror City. Is this six-burden divine city? Zen asked in wonder. Yes, Master Evil affirmed. This is the Han clan's ancestral land as well as their central divine city. It is 100 times larger than Mirror City. The divine cities only had 3 levels. Ordinary divine cities were small cities like Mirror City, while some central divine cities like the one in the vast sky region were larger ones. The largest were central divine cities in the wealthy clans, ancestral lands, like six-burden divine city. You have now arrived. Please avoid lingering in the space channel and leave immediately. A harsh voice announced, shocking Zen momentarily. It came from one of the six-burden divine city guards. This six-burden divine city is even stricter than Mirror City, Zen thought, bowing to the guard as he walked away. The guard couldn't help but watch Zen as he left. This is quite strange. Why would a proving godly warrior use the space channel? Despite being 100 times larger than Mirror City, the six-burden divine city was still a bit smaller compared to the 10th grade sacred places Zen had seen in the evolutionary universe. The scale of the divine cities was based on slates. Six-burden divine city had 1,000 commandments slate, but this slate's influence was still limited. Under Master Evil's guidance, Zen spent his first few days exploring. There seemed to be many proving godly houses in the divine city. These proving godly houses were about the same as the martial arts schools and martial houses in the universe. Most of the divine citizens who entered the divine city would most often go into one of these proving godly houses to comprehend the godly way. Their goal was to one day successfully obtain limitless lifespan. Unfortunately, these proving godly houses were useless to Zen. If it was to learn the godly way, Zen wasn't confident that he would match up to the true gods in the proving godly houses. But as for the pure understanding of martial arts, he believed that many true gods would first have to acknowledge Zen as their teacher. After exploring, Zen made sure to ask around and gain some information. It was through his dialogue with the locals that Zen was able to find the largest proving godly house in the six-burden divine city, the Heavenly Han House, set up by the Han clan. Those who entered the Heavenly Han House had a slight chance of getting selected by the Han clan to receive their training. If one was lucky enough to get selected and train, then there was a slight chance of becoming the Han clan's personal disciple and getting sent to the clan's floating island. Of course, these chances were extremely slim and ordinary divine citizens did not even dare dream of such a thing. It was understandable that most of the people Zen asked gave him strange looks because of this. Armed with this kind of information, Zen then made his way to the heavenly Han house. As soon as he arrived on the premises, he immediately saw tens of thousands of proving godly warriors sitting cross-legged on the floor, 2 feet apart from each other, with expressions of the utmost respect on their faces. At the forefront of these proving godly warriors was a chanting old man who sported a mustache. The old man held his hands behind his back and swayed unsteadily as he chanted. Life, death, regret, and... Zen did not have the slightest idea of what he was talking about, but since he had a certain level of understanding towards the godly way, he figured that the old man was most probably teaching the 5 elements godly way.